So I think it was Kobe who said something, right? Like the road from like 100 to 125 will be the easy road, then 125 to like 250, or that will be the hard road, and then 125 to 250 will be the easy road. So
I got liquidated on gold, and that was like the only position I had open. It's hilarious. Like I had, of course, naively had zero idea that I could get liquidated on 3x on gold. Yeah, but honestly, it's really not ideal that Bitcoin can go down like that in 30 minutes.
Thread guy was hit by a big tax bill and was like stressing about it on the timeline. And literally the next day, all of a sudden we like see, maybe it wasn't the next day, but like within, 48 hours, we see this huge surge in Zcash. Like, am I wrong in thinking that there was a connection there, or like was there or wasn't there? Hi everyone, welcome to Unchained, your no-hype resource for all things crypto. I'm your host, Laura Shin. Thanks for joining this live stream, but just FYI that this was pre-recorded. Before we get started, a quick reminder, nothing you hear on Unchained is investment advice. This show is for informational and entertainment purposes only, and my guests and I may hold assets discussed on the show. For more disclosures, visit unchainedcrypto.com. Are you a builder who needs to add on-chain trading to your product? The Uniswap Trading API from Uniswap Labs offers plug-and-play access to some of the deepest liquidity in crypto. It's on-chain execution at an enterprise level. More liquidity, less complexity. Visit hub.uniswap.org to learn more. Mantle is launching the Global Hackathon 2025 to accelerate the future of real-world assets. With a $150,000 prize pool, backing from a $4 billion treasury, and direct access to Bybit's 7 million plus users, this is the ultimate ecosystem for builders. Today's topic is 2025 Year in Review, Part 2. Here to finish the discussion are Gort, host of The Gort Show, and Doug Colquitt, co-founder of Foco and Ambient Finance. Welcome, Doug and Gort.
hey, thanks for having us back.
Thank
Kicking
you
us off.
for round 2. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to finish off the second half of the year because there was so much that happened. We're going to start with the Genius Act, which was the first the first crypto law that we have seen in the US. And there were, a few like interesting surprises in there. I think probably the main one that, has continued to cause controversy and is also, I think, a sticking point in the negotiations of the crypto market structure bill is that there's a prohibition on stablecoin issuers directly handing the interest off to users. But anyway, what are your thoughts on what happened with the stablecoin law?
Well, I mean, I guess it kind of kicked off stablecoin season, which is somewhat unfortunate for alt markets because there aren't really many stablecoin tokens, or at least like tokens to trade. So, Yeah, I mean, and great for crypto adoption, but I think everyone kind of wanted something to pump, and there really wasn't much besides Circle Equity.
What, XPL didn't perform well for you?
Oh, XPL, yeah, that's actually XPL was the stable coin play for a while.
I mean, I think that project could do well, but yeah, like it's unfortunate. I mean, really, it feels like only hype. I'm sure there's at least a few others, like Privacy did well this year, but like it just feels like every token was yeah, just down only. I don't know.
Bad year for tokens.
Court, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think this. Well, I'm not so like tuned into what actually happened with the whole Genius Act thing, but I do know what you're talking about with regards to not being able to pass along yield. But I think there's a lot of workarounds with this, right? So they're trying to, I don't know what, like rewards and depositing a slightly different contract and being able to pay out another or something. So it is kind of interesting how like does seem to be with all of the regulation and everything that's going on, it definitely seems like there's some powerful people behind some of the decisions, which seems sort of, I don't know, like, it doesn't seem intuitive why, we shouldn't be able to just be directed yield if like that is in many ways part of the appeal of stablecoins, I think, is that we can sort of like pass along that T-bills or whatever it may be in the background. And like, immediately this was sort of, so yeah, I think like the community banks were behind this and I think there's still a lot of work to do. It's sort of unfortunate, but that aspect was interesting.
I mean, I guess maybe it's that the banks really feel like they need to pump the bags of Circle and Tether, and that's what it boils down to. They're like, those companies, they're not wealthy enough, so yeah, they need to keep that interest. Okay,
It's
well,
also a
so
good full employment act for lawyers. Like those are always the people who make out the most in crypto.
Yeah,
no, no,
Lawyers
no,
want to
no,
be
no,
able
ultimate,
to
no,
buy
no.
like
those.
The
everyone
lawyers are
says,
gonna be decimated by AI.
everyone says that we've been selling all the picks and shovels, but it's really the lawyers who are truly the ones selling the picks and shovels this whole time, right?
Yeah, they're just trying to make as much money as they can before AI comes and wipes them out. No offense to any lawyers listening to the show, but I have been reading about what's going to happen to the legal profession. So anyway, okay, another big event around the same time was the Pump ICO. This was so interesting because this happened at the same time that Let's Bonk was, trending, and there was so much hype, and then afterward there was so much disappointment. And anyway, I don't know. What did you think watching the whole thing?
It was interesting. There was like this narrative that like Pump is like dead and like they're gonna replace it with other launch pads, and it was like about for 6 weeks. And I mean, as far as I can tell, I think like Pump's kind of still dominant right now.
Yeah, but the volume has fallen off precipitously.
Yeah, not because of competition though, right? Just 'cause
No,
the
no, you're right.
trenches are
Like
dead.
the whole bonk thing seemed like quite fabricated. Although I am friends with quite a lot of those early bonk investors as well, so I don't want to. I don't know the details. I think they definitely put on like kind of a PR campaign, in conjunction with the Pump ICO in order to compete right then and there. But the ICO was interesting. I don't think it was. I mean, as kind of hilarious as this sounds, like I think it was pretty decently well done insofar as they sold it directly to the public, or there were avenues through which you could buy it publicly, and there was sort of a uniform launch price. And they also launched an evaluation such that if you were a large liquid fund, right, and needed to deploy a sizable chunk at once, this was an opportunity to do so. Obviously, it's like since then it's been up and down. I mean, it went up quite a bit afterwards, right? Like Thread Guy was all talking about how bullish he was, and I think he sold the Pico top. Maybe he was the reason that was pumping, I'm not
Alon was
sure.
kind of deranged
Yeah,
tweeting for a little bit, and I was sending it
yeah. I
out.
don't know exactly what's happening now, though. I don't know
The
where. I
the
haven't heard
price,
about.
because wait, didn't they sell it at, point 0.4 cents? Because now it's
Yeah,
at
so 4 billion, I think.
0.19 cents, so it's
Yeah.
less than half. Yeah, I mean, um, I remember that when Alon went on Thread Guy, he said multiple times to Alon something like, "You have so much money." Like, "You have an ungodly amount of money," or, like, whatever the comments were, and I remember at the, like, 2nd or 3rd comment like that, Alon didn't even, like, just respond, and then Fred guy there was, like, a silence, and Fred guy just
I'm not gonna dignify that with a response.
didn't mention that again.
I mean, it's interesting because, like, unlike an IPO or like, right, like a company raises equity, they have no legal obligation to do anything with them. Like, they could take the
Mhm.
money and just pay themselves and go home, right? It's just a token sale. But as far as I can tell, I don't think they have. But I people were kind of trusting them a lot.
Well, he did, like, so the team initiated some buybacks, right? But they were sort
Mhm.
of arbitrarily designed. So I think he was just, I say he, I mean, the team, I suppose, were, buying in sort of sporadic amounts and at times. It wasn't sort of this algorithmic thing that, we have with hype and so, and also, again, it's not like, so there's two things. One, it's not so clear the value of launching a token and then making money and then buying back the token that you just issued, right? It's like a little bit of this circular thing where in the real world, when there's like equity and there's, proper revenue and then net income, and then maybe you're doing share repurchases, like, Apple, like all these companies do this on a regular basis. But when you just kind of create something out, like, conjure
Yeah, they
something out
do.
of
They
thin
do it out of
air,
earnings, though. They don't just
right? Exactly.
raise a
Well, that's
bunch
what
of
I'm
money
saying.
and then go buy
Right.
back stock.
Exactly.
It's
Well, and
actual.
also like the immediacy of it doesn't like necessarily lend itself well to like this sustainable flywheel whereby you like raise 4 billion and then you're making, I don't know, not 4 billion. No, nothing that's even a reasonable multiple of 4 billion, maybe at the peak of top, but not when it was done. And then you're kind of like buying back in random amounts. It's not, there's nothing that engenders like, oh, you know, this is clearly the way to do financial engineering. But I like, to their defense, or I don't know, defense, but like to kind of be fair, the trenches have completely died, right? Like the volume on, if you look at Solana, the volume is down over 90% from, the Trump launch, and there was sort of that like euthanasia roller coaster. So they tried this streaming thing. I don't know how that's going. They were talking about, creators and stuff, like the whole market. I mean, we could talk about how Pump was this massive, ICO and then a drift downwards, but like there's a whole market's done that, right? So like I am
Yeah.
somewhat sympathetic toward anybody right now. It's like no one is really in a premier spot. Like all these launches have been down only, right? So I don't know. And Pump does or did make money at one point, right? Like again, is that sustainable? I don't
But
know, but
still, I
like
think
they
they still
did.
do like 1 million a
They do.
day
Yeah,
in
exactly,
Yeah.
revenue.
exactly.
Yeah,
So we'll
I
Yeah,
don't
see.
know
I
who's
think
still trading like pump shitters, but like a lot of people
I
are.
know, right? Well, like all the like now if a token hits, I mean, if a token hits like a million or $5 million market cap now, it's like that's the runner of the day. Whereas like,
That's the new whip.
6 to 12 months ago, we had coins, running to 50, 100 million regularly and, at times billion, you know what I mean? So it's clear that the trenches in aggregate have been, like it's been a prescribed fire almost.
Yeah, there was this funny tweet after the ICO where someone was like, "Wait, so we gave you money for the ICO, but then now you're using the money to buy the they were it was like this whole like circular thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is basically a thing that they do in TradFi, but it's just funny. It's like literally all we're doing is like moving money from one, entity to another and then back and forth and back and forth. Um, so okay. Well, the next big thing was that Tempo caused quite a stir when it chose to become its own L1. And I shouldn't say it's like an entity, it's in itself. It's like Stripe chose to make Tempo an L1. And obviously this became I think it caused a bit of consternation, I would say, in Ethereum world. But what were your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's not. I mean, it's not clear. Like, obviously, Paradigm is all in on Tempo. It's not clear to me how much Stripe is all in on Tempo, or this is just one of many bets Stripe is taking. Like if you talk to kind of random people at Stripe. Some of them haven't even heard. Like, not people who work on Tempo or blockchain, but like, random employees haven't really heard of Tempo, or at least haven't like right after the announcement. So like, I don't know if this is like Stripe's big bet in crypto, or is just Stripe as a giant company, and Paradigm kind of showed up and was like, oh, well, all right, sure, we'll do it.
Oh,
Sure.
interesting. I
Well,
was
no,
not
but like
aware.
Matt's on the board of Stripe.
Oh, is okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he is.
I mean,
he is.
there's a long time connection there. So I think
Yeah,
that's
I mean, obviously Stripe is involved in it. I just don't know if like
Right,
this is
yeah.
like Stripe is. I mean, they're doing stablecoin payments on Solana and Ethereum too, right? Like my
Right.
understanding.
Well, it's like
so.
okay, I'll be honest. It's like it's not dissimilar from people saying, Tether and Plasma. Like Plasma is Tether's chain. It's like Tether yeets money at everything. I mean, Tether owns Rumble. Tether has invested in a gajillion random AI startups. Like, it's quite similar. You find a big name and then you sort of align in some capacity. I mean, I think the Stripe to Tempo connection seems more, I don't want to say legitimate. Let me think of another word. It seems more truly,
Like
Tether
canonical?
than
Like,
yeah.
I just don't know how
then
it could come out.
Plasma.
Like, if Tempo doesn't take off, like, is Stripe going to put like all their resources into making it work, and they're going to be like, oh, fine, we're doing like payments on Solana or Ethereum or wherever. Like, it's fine. Like, Tempo.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
can-
Oh, interesting. Wait, okay. Because I mean, they're trying to make it this sort of consortium thing. Like, it's basically, I'm sure you saw the memes. It's basically like Libra or DM all over again. But hopefully this time it will actually happen. But yeah, so I feel like, yeah, even if they aren't in control of it at a certain point, like, it would be that they get it afloat and then they step away, not that they like abandon it and it goes nowhere. I mean, who knows what will happen.
Yeah, but I mean, like, there's just stuff with like how much their fingers on the scale, right? Like, how much are they going to push like end users to go through Tether versus if they're supporting alternate channels outside, or not Tether, Tempo versus saying, okay, it's just like one neutral option.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
agree
by
with
the
that.
way, you guys, like, Tether does have so much money that they offer to buy this soccer club in,
Yeah.
is that, it's
Juventus. Yeah.
Italian? Yeah. Which, yeah, I mean, good for them. All right. Speaking of stablecoins, the next big controversy in crypto was the USDH competition, the hyperliquid stablecoin. Yeah, a competition, which wasn't a competition. It was, I don't know. I'm gonna say something controversial, but I think most of us would probably agree on the deal that it was preordained who it would be. Hopefully nobody will come attack me for saying that, but yeah, what did you think watching that go down?
I mean, it's kind of like the old meme of the DAO governance forum where it's, what color Ferrari does the founder get? And
Yeah.
vote red, and then the founder says no yellow, and then everyone votes yellow. I mean, I think a lot of things on-chain governance are probably
Yeah, but I think it's
preordained in the
fine. I mean, they
it's probably necessary, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah. And also, I don't know this for a fact, but I speculate that it was in some capacity preordained. I mean, I don't even think there's anything nefarious in saying preordained. Like, they probably were just in close talks with Hyperliquid and team
Right,
and Jeff.
but my thing is, like, if it was preordained, then why not just say, "Hey, we're gonna launch our own stablecoin. We're gonna partner with, native markets, blah, blah, blah." Like, why wouldn't, you know?
Well, I think so I don't know. Again, this is just conversations I've had, which is that I think that was the initial idea. And then once it was, I think it was sort of understood this was going to become the native stablecoin. And then it got like everybody wanted to be involved. And so you got all these teams vying, all these teams submitting proposals, and none of that was expected. Like, I don't think there was any assumption there was going to be a tremendous amount of hype to begin with. So
No,
it was going to look
they
more
but
similar.
they put an announcement in the Discord saying, like, we're gonna have this little competition. So,
I think
but
there's
I think
also maybe regulatory stuff around that. Like, you can't, if the team like just picks one, right, then it's potentially, right, too much control over the network versus if you have an open. Because also, right, like the hype itself, I don't think voted, right? Like the other validators voted. So you have to kind of make it, from a regulatory perspective, there's a risk if it doesn't look like a decentralized and open.
So it was DeFi theater, basically.
Well, I mean, I like again, the lawyers make a lot of money and they tell you things, and then like at the end of the day, like who knows what the actual rules are? I don't think anybody knows, but
Yeah,
Oh
but
my gosh,
lawyers
this
sound
all right,
authoritative when they tell you stuff.
the largest hype holders voted for this to pass, right? Like that's how it works. It's like the validators, I know the foundation abstained, right? But they convinced hyper guys, whatever they're like, all the big validators they convinced. It is what it is. I mean, yeah, I suppose capitalism is not always fair, but like I don't think it's is the controversy. I think what happened was it really blew up because a lot of
wait,
VCs
but
had
I wouldn't call that
projects.
capitalism. I wouldn't call it
It's crony
like
capitalism, but there's a lot of this.
okay, but real capitalism is competition, whereas that was like a fake competition, and then instead it was more
Well,
communist
but they
in that it
won.
was
They won with the most the people with the most money ultimately decided the vote, and that's capitalism. Like I think this is just. I really think what happened was that there was a lot of VCs who, and not just VCs but founders, legitimate founders like Guy, right, from Athena, who they all wanted to be involved. Like they're like, oh, okay, we'll submit a proposal as well, and so it got a lot of hype, and then it appeared as though this had been preordained after there was a lot of really good proposals that came in, but at the end of the day the people with the most money voted for it. Like, I understand your
so
point,
you
and
feel like it actually was decentralized.
but nothing is decentralized. I mean, come on, who cares? Like, all of this
Wait,
stuff
so
is
what are
theater.
you
About
There's
like
nothing
arguing? What are
decentralized.
you
American
arguing?
democracy. Are you saying some of that's preordained before?
Yeah, but I'm just saying it. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's not even open source. It's the validators are sent a binary, right, that they run, and when they hard fork, they're just sent a new binary, right, and they just start like this is not. I think we're overthinking this. There's a lot of like steps along the way prior to like, oh no, the yield bearing stablecoin is preordained or chosen. It's like there's a lot of things prior to that where if you're engaged in this network, you realize that there is some top down control, and Jeff likely ships whatever code he wants out to the validators, and people seem to like the product. So who cares, right?
So it is decentralization theater.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
okay.
yeah.
All right, good. For some reason I thought you were arguing that it wasn't, and I was like, wait, what are you saying? Okay,
It
okay.
is, but it works. It's good enough.
Yeah, I mean, if Hester Purse's what's it called, the safe harbor thing goes through, then yeah, I think they're within like the time frame of when it could be centralized. So, no big deal. And anyway, not like this SEC is going to go after them. Okay. Next big news was the acquisition of Echo by Coinbase, along with the revival of Up Only, which hasn't happened, but the purchase of Up Only for 25, or the purchase of a season of Up Only for $25 million. And then now, Kobe is doing customer support for Coinbase, which is what you do. You acquire somebody for $400 million so that they can do customer support for you. And I feel like that is like clearly the best acquihire of the year. But yeah, what are your thoughts?
I thought that. Well, I think Kobe, from what. So I don't know him like that well, but I think what he was really trying to solve a problem in earnest. And I think that, I mean, Fogo used, this is a good opportunity to shill Doug. Fogo used Echo,
Yeah,
right? So
we did Echo about a year
yeah,
ago.
like I think he was trying to solve a real problem that a lot of us had screeched about for a long time. And yeah, it was like quite a large number
And wait, by that, you
for,
talking about like a good platform for ICOs. Is that what you mean?
yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, I
well,
think just
I
like,
think right, like you early investors are
yeah,
like ideally you're like your early investors should be your users. Like very few, like I mean, I guess there are some VCs that will bring like liquidity or whatever depending on the project, but like all things being equal, if you're going to sell, X amount of tokens to fund some project development at a certain price, you'd rather have them be users, right? Like people who invest are more likely to click on the network versus if you go to whatever multi-coin or whoever, like they're not going to go do a bunch of chain activity.
Gort, were you gonna say
no,
more?
I mean, I will say that I don't necessarily share the view that investors must be users. It's in the context of crypto. I think it's what we've done, and so we sort of take that as at face value. There's some nuance to whether or not I agree with that, but I take Doug's point. But I think more, I guess my point was more just, right, for the past, I don't know, 5 years, you could probably extend it further than that. We see these tokens launching at like extremely high FDVs, and most of the charts get murdered, and it doesn't seem that like this premise of retail having early access to these opportunities was really playing out, because VCs were scooping up these rounds very, very early, and oftentimes they were getting bid up in private subsequently, right? So it wasn't even just like one round, it was 2 or 3 rounds, and then all of a sudden you're at $1, $2, $5 billion opening price, right? And so the premise obviously being that retail could just get earlier access, maybe with some conditions, maybe you need to be a credit investor, maybe there's lockups, but more replicate what some VCs have been getting for some period of time now. So like I think he was like, I saw a lot of Kobe, like when he would come on Twitter and respond to people, like I had conversations with him, and mostly what I saw was I think he also agreed that this was a real problem, and so he was trying to solve it. So it's a hard thing to solve, right? I think at a practical level, we've had AngelList and TradFi for quite some time. It works differently with exits and tokens and dynamics, but I think it was a passion project, because I think from what I can tell, again, I don't know him that well, but what I see him say, I think he genuinely believes in, the idea that he kind of puts forth with Echo.
Yeah, it's definitely from his perspective, right? Like Kobe probably has better deal flow than any angel investor in crypto.
Exactly.
So, it's very much a Robin Hood type story of the guy who has great deal flow is opening it up. So,
Yeah. And now that's why he does customer support. That's like his other way.
that's a good Coinbase could use that. That's certainly.
I will be honest, like, and I think people realize this, but I'll just say it directly. Like, what does it say about Coinbase that there have been problems that we've all dealt with for years, and it's taken one guy who was acquired for an entirely separate reason, right? Like his company had nothing to do with fixing locked accounts, and he's now being able to rectify this stuff. Like, I don't know, that's a little bit, that doesn't imbue tremendous confidence in like Coinbase, or my perspective, that it takes this guy to come in here and like he's fixing the problems that we've screeched about for years, right? I gave up. I'll be honest. I only use Kraken now. Like when I'm onboarding up, like my account got locked. I have one of these back and forth.
You never were able to get it back, right?
I have screenshots of how hilarious the conversations were.
Why don't you message Kobe?
I did actually. Ironic. It's funny you say that. I talked to him last week. He's trying to help me because so here's a good example. I had a friend who's not really crypto native, but like I owed him some money, and I said, I have some stable coins on Solana. Can you send me your Solana address? And he sent me a Solana address. Unbeknownst to him, he didn't realize it was his Coinbase address, and I had USDT, so I didn't think anything of it, and I sent him USDT on Solana to his Coinbase address, and of course they don't support USDT. By the way, this is a completely like background infrastructure thing that is 100% solvable. Like those coins just sit there, and Doug is more technical than I am, but I don't think it's not that hard to fix.
No, it's not that hard. They have the keys, right?
Okay.
Like it's not like they're lost or anything. Like they're the address, but
there is a recovery tool now. Apparently, in Kobe's, we're in the process of trying. The first time I tried it hasn't worked yet, but this kid now, like we're friends. He's gonna send me the money back because I ended up double paying him, right? Because I was like, oh, dude, I'm sorry, like, but when we can unlock that, send that money back to me, right? And so now we're in that process. But like that's a good example of like, come on,
But I am wondering why somebody has USDT on Solana. That's
I have a bunch of different stablecoin, like probably like some incentives crap on like some lending thing. I don't know.
Stablecoin enjoyer. Just
like, why is that so weird? Like, you would think I'd have.
People don't really use USDT that much on Solana, so that's why. Like it was on Ethereum, yeah, I can see that, but
yeah.
Well,
anyway, it is. Yeah, that is ridiculous. They can't do that.
It's annoying, right?
Like Tether, a major stablecoin.
Yeah.
I mean, like maybe the reason that their regular customer service can't do it is because they are so busy sending our PII to hackers.
Laura,
So
have you ever dealt with Coinbase customer support? Like, have you ever? You don't. You like completely
no,
stay out of crypto, don't you?
no, I don't.
Okay.
It's yeah, I've been in it and out of it at different periods, but I'm now back in it. But like, I have somebody manage that for me,
Okay.
so I am not like physically in control of my crypto. Just for whoever's listening who maybe is like mad about something that I wrote about them or said about them or whatever, just so you know. Um, okay. Before the ad break, let's just discuss briefly the Bitcoin all-time high of $126,000, which is far below what I think a lot of other people kind of thought it was gonna end up at this cycle. But yeah, what are your comments on this? And by the way, this is just a few days before the 10/10 liquidations. I mean,
It's
basically it
exciting.
Well,
had
wasn't it? It was. I
I'm
think it was
pumped.
Kobe. I think it was Kobe. So we were just saying
Mm.
good things about him. So I think it was Kobe who said something, right? Like the road from like
0 to
100 to
100.
125 will be the easy road, then 125 to like 250, or that'll be the hard road, and then 125 to 250 will be the easy road. So
I know. But wait,
Yeah.
like the other funny thing is this happened in October, and it was like
oh yeah, October
six
was
days in
ruined.
apparently is when we reached the all-time high, and then yeah, then it was downtober, I guess. But I don't know. Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah, but so what do you think about that all-time high? And then we can discuss 10/10.
It's exciting. I think obviously everybody thought that we were just going to keep running for eternity, and the market tends to punish those who believe there's ever an easy road, I suppose. Um, yeah, I don't have much more than that. I mean, I listened. I think Udi came on. Was it your podcast?
Yeah.
And yeah, so I talk with Udi a lot, right? And we were both like 400K by the end of the he was saying 400K by the end of the year, and I was like, dude,
Uh,
I love it. Like I'm in. I would love for that to be the case, right? And obviously, yeah, I think what most people who are smarter than I am on macros say is probably correct, right? We front ran like Trump coming in, we front ran a lot of the TradFi liquidity, and we were just, sort of earlier. The stock market, gold, everything is at all-time highs right now, and we kind of already ran that up. So, I mean, I suppose it was exciting when it hit that, and it's less exciting now that it's 30% down. But yeah, I don't have much more than that.
All right. So in a moment, we're going to talk about the 10/10 liquidations and the rest of the year. But first, a quick word from the sponsors to make this show possible. Hey, founders and developers. If you're looking to bring on-chain trading to your product, wallet, or platform, check out the new Uniswap Trading API from Uniswap Labs. It's your plug-and-play gateway to global on-chain liquidity. No deep crypto experience required, and no need to manage complex integrations or ongoing maintenance. With the Uniswap Trading API, you'll get enterprise-grade on-chain execution, combining both on-chain and off-chain sources for the most competitive prices. Simply put, more liquidity, less complexity. And this isn't just any API. It connects directly to the Uniswap protocol, which has securely processed over $3.3 trillion in total volume with zero hacks. So stop worrying about liquidity infrastructure and focus on building your product. Get access to the same liquidity that powers billions in swaps through one powerful API. Visit hub.uniswap.org to learn more. Mantle has entered a new phase as the distribution layer connecting TradFi and on-chain liquidity. To accelerate this vision, the Mantle Global Hackathon 2025 is inviting developers to build scalable RWA and DeFi products. Why build on Mantle? It's an ecosystem built for builders. You get direct access to Bybit's 7 million plus users for potential listing exposure, support from the $4 billion Mantle Treasury, and mentorship from top VCs like Spartan and Animoca brands. With 6 tracks prioritizing RWAs and RealFi, and a $150,000 prize pool plus grants, this is your chance to deploy on a high-performance modular L2. Register now. The link is in the show notes. Back to my conversation with Doug and Gort. So, Yeah, we left on the high note of the Bitcoin all-time high. Well, though I don't know if that was a high note because it was far below what a lot of people thought the all-time high was going to be. But anyway, we then come to the 1010 liquidations, which yeah, that was like you said, Gore. I'm not really in crypto, but like that was terrible even just for me, like watching, sitting on my computer on, Friday afternoon. And yeah, huge shocker. Interestingly, I feel like it's the first time that I've ever heard of finance like really fucking something up, not and that wasn't like regulatory. Like this was like an actual failure on the part of um the trading apparatus. And then we also have that element of the whale who made a shit ton of money. And it's seemingly, somebody who's connected to the White House. So those elements together make for, kind of a spicy story. So what's your take on what happened there?
Doug is like our premier expert on 1010. He wrote this thread that was like one of the most popular threads in Twitter history.
Doug, you became
about
you
Yeah,
became like a
I'm
star.
actually surprised that got. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like we still don't know exactly what happened on 1010. I don't know if we ever will know exactly what happened, and people are like, "Oh, so and so got liquidated." I mean, look, like a
Wait,
lot
wait,
of people,
wait.
like,
Wait, meaning do you disagree with the two elements that I talked about? Like the
oh,
big
no,
whale
no, no, I
and
think they're
oh,
true,
okay.
but, like, I don't I mean, people are still now like, "Oh, somebody big got, liquidated on
Oh,
1010,"
oh.
and then, like, the market's been broken since then, or, like, right, people had, like, conspiracies like, "Oh, Binance was gonna switch USDE to, like, different collateral mode, like, 3 days later, and so this was planned ahead of time." Like, I don't know. I don't think we'll ever really know exactly what happened. But
Well,
yeah, I mean, like,
what's your
right? Like,
top
everyone
theory?
was farming perps, right? Like, everyone was farming perp dexes. Everyone had, like, some leverage on some things, and, like, all alts went to, like, 0, at least, like, Wick. So even if you were on, like, 2x leverage and you probably thought it was, like, safe farming, whatever, the nth largest perp dex, I feel like everyone kinda got not wiped out, but, like, everyone got kinda, like, hit in
I
10.
got liquidated on gold. And that was like the only position I had open. It's hilarious. Like I had, of course, naively had zero idea that I could get liquidated on 3x on gold. Yeah, but such is the case. Honestly, like again, I don't have any insight into market structure and stuff. Certainly not to the extent that Doug does. So we should press him more on that. But one thing I would say is, honestly, it's really not ideal that Bitcoin can go down like that in 30 minutes. And it's also not ideal. And I'm saying like this is something we all know because we've dealt with insane amounts of volatility being in crypto for the past 5, 10 years, whatever. Like we've all seen this, but I've been talking to people who are trying to, I wouldn't say bring mass adoption, but they are trying to build products. They are trying to build useful services for people to use Bitcoin, use crypto. And we sit here and we were all very much sold on this, non-sovereign store of value, like, and a lot of people apply that to Bitcoin and people apply that to other, assets as well. But it's hard to like that this delays adoption. This type of thing really does delay adoption in my mind. Like, and I know that's fine. Like I'm as bullish as I ever will be on Bitcoin, right? Like, so this is in the long run to me, it's like, okay, all of this stuff is ups and downs. Like people know that if Bitcoin succeeds, great. If it dies, like I'm going to die with it and I'm fine with that. And I know that. Right. But like, so it doesn't change my conviction, but I really do think that this is not ideal. And we're sitting here telling people like this is a store of value and it goes down 15% in 30 minutes and then bleeds down 40% over the course of 3 months. Like that is a hard pitch to boomers. It's a hard pitch to people who would invest thinking that this, can preserve their wealth, and then they're down 40%. Like, and we see gold, we see the stock market, right? These things aren't great. Like, zooming out is it's really not ideal, and it's annoying,
And
Yeah.
I guess it should have been, right? Like, you would think that ETFs and, like, widespread
Exactly.
hold it, right? Like, it's like there's a story in, like, 2013. There's just a bunch of, like, online, like, crazy people trading this back and forth. But, like,
Right.
at this point, institutions own it. Like, there should be stable.
Right, exactly. Like we that was the whole pitch, was like the institutions are here. We'll never see this, extreme volatility again. There's a constant bid, right? Like there's a perpetual bid on the books for massive size. Any whales that have held for 10, 15 years can easily get out now without, moving the chart, because there is a persistent bid. And then we have these events, and like, yeah, I mean, I talked to somebody, building like a lending protocol, and it's like, it's hard to build financial products around these type of assets when, you think you're taking out a very, conservative loan, and you're you're just wiped. Like, put aside me getting liquidated on gold because I had no idea. Of course, like I'm just, degenerately screwing around. But like, this is the stuff that I'm, it's unfortunate. But like, okay, such is life, right? Such as markets, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. It's like, yeah, crypto people who are true believers had their comeuppance because like gold reached all-time highs this year. And okay, Bitcoin did too, but gold really outpaced Bitcoin. And it's just like a lesson in um, the market for crypto is still so small and like adoption is still so little. And so yeah, like way more people in the world have faith in gold than they do in
I
Bitcoin.
mean, it's painful. Silver keeps hitting all-time highs, and Bitcoin is just it's
I mean, I'm not
not
worried.
pleasant.
It's probably look. It's probably a good thing to like, as a reminder that this is not that there. This easy road does not exist, and I obviously I don't think Bitcoin's going to zero, but like this stuff takes time, and this idea that all of a sudden nation states are just gobbling this up in massive size and will never let it experience volatility is probably pretty delusional. And I mean, this happens in the stock market as well, so like let's not pretend that this is a uniquely crypto thing. But yeah, it's annoying. Like it's super annoying, especially when I'm talking to people at someone's wedding, and I'm saying, yeah, I like, buy the Bitcoin ETF. Like, now you can just get on your brokerage account, like no problem. Don't deal with this custody stuff. Then like 3 weeks later, just nukes, and I'm like, pretending I didn't say that stuff.
It's never good at Thanksgiving. You want it. You
Right.
want Thanksgiving to be the old.
Yeah.
It's Thanksgiving is always a bad time for crypto people.
Exactly.
Yeah, hopefully people didn't have too terrible of a Thanksgiving.
But wait, I
Okay,
think we should ask Doug one more thing. So with regards to the whole 10-10 thing, because again, he's the foremost expert, and almost everybody would say that. The one thing I should ask you about, so like circuit breakers or something resembling circuit breakers, right? We have these in TradFi where if a stock just nukes in a very short period of time, people, they cut trading and they're like, okay, hang on, let's figure out what's going on. There's some proposed solutions where like perhaps not a pure play circuit breaker, but some short period of time where
You time
like,
out.
yeah. So what are your like what were your conclusions on this? I don't know if it's feasible with something like a DEX, but like what are your kind of
I don't think it's a bad idea. Like some of those wicks, like to zero. You kind of right. You don't want to liquidate people.
they were finding fair value. Adam found fair value.
Maybe those are the fair value of some of those alts. But right, like it's not a terrible. The challenge is, I think, like really what happened with 10-10 is you have like market makers, and especially in crypto, right? Like market makers have to like, especially you're on some long tail venue, you have to hedge other places, and like ADL kind of screwed everyone here because you're getting closed out on one side of your hedge and you weren't open on another. And I guess like my worry with circuit breakers is like if you're, trading on Hyperliquid and hedging at Binance and like one is shut down, like that could actually like really, really screw you because you can't like hedge your positions.
yeah, that's what I was gonna
Anywhere.
say. Like, I feel like it would only make sense, or you, Doug, tell me if I'm thinking about this correctly, but like, it would only make sense if they check that like the price dislocation is only on their venue, and they have a way to figure out that it's not anywhere else. Because otherwise, like, yeah, it can really like there will be people who will be upset if there's like a policy at one place that isn't replicated at the others, or if the circuit breaker kicks in when it like shouldn't have. So yeah, I feel like it almost opens like a can of worms. So
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's tough. It's tough to get. It's tough to get right, right? Like in TradFi, like the nice thing is you can claw back like money afterwards, right? So if like something's messed up and there's errors, right? Like you can always go to Citadel or whoever and you like claw back money from. You can't do that in crypto.
It's
So
really it's
like
bad if there's like so if so few people know what's going on, if so few market makers know what's going on, they're just pulling all liquidity from the books. That's like not that doesn't end up well. Like, and we saw this when everyone's like, hang on, like, where is this coming from and what's going on? Like, yeah, that's really not ideal. That's when you see these, wicks to zero.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is like the technology at crypto exchanges is not great. Right, like the API gateways. Like, if there's something that's an easy fix, it's like make the API gateways more reliable. Like, they just go offline. They give you your orders like 10 minutes later, right? And this is something, right? Like crypto exchanges, they have a lot of money they could invest in. It is like a Coinbase like customer service thing. Like, why 10 years now do they not have like reliable gateways? Like, go hire someone from NASDAQ and just build a reliable gateway.
Okay, let's move on to the next big news event, at least that I remembered, which was the surge in privacy coins. Zcash leading the pack, but a bunch of other privacy coins also in tow. What did you make of that? It kind of came out of nowhere, and I want to float a theory by you, which is that in my mind, what happened is Thread Guy was hit by a big tax bill and was like stressing about it on the timeline. And literally the next day, all of a sudden we like see, maybe it wasn't the next day, but like within, 48 hours, we see this huge surge in Zcash. Like, am I wrong in thinking that there was a connection there, or like was there or wasn't there?
Thread guy realized that California is a high tax state. Yeah.
But is that related to the surge in Zcash or not?
Oh, was that? I actually,
The
I never
timing
put
was
that two and two together.
coincidental, I think.
Okay, so like why did Zcash suddenly surge overnight? I just never understood that.
Well, okay, so in crypto, we have these things called narratives, all right? And every few months, we cycle through a new one. And one we had not cycled through in quite some time was this idea around privacy. And there was this, collective, I guess, realization that everything on a blockchain is public. And so that was a narrative. It is perhaps still ongoing.
But
And
like what caused that to happen at that moment?
I guess 1010 actually probably did play. I mean,
No, no,
obviously you
no, no,
can't
no, no,
use
because
Zcash.
it was the end of September is when Zcash and the privacy
Oh,
coins
was
started
it?
to take.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, you had James Wynn and like people were talking about like being hunted on perp
Yeah, but
dexes and
James Wynn,
stuff.
that
And
was like in May.
yeah, I don't know. They were just trying. I mean, one thing is right. Like privacy was kind of you didn't want to touch it for like previous admin. So I think we hadn't done a privacy narrative in a while, just because like if you're a dev and you're a privacy dev, like okay, go to jail. And so now it's like kind of the first time in a while you don't go to jail if you're a privacy dev.
I think, okay,
So it's a
look,
good time to.
Laura, I'll level
Okay,
with you. I
but
think
one
you're
of them
kind of,
just went to prison, but anyway.
I think you're overthinking the why. Like, why did we have this AI agent narrative where these coins pump to billions of dollars? Like, it's just these things just happen, and there's not. So I think that we hadn't had a privacy narrative in a long time, and I also think that I agree with Doug that this new administration seems, more open to virtually everything. And if this gets us talking about privacy, which is something new to talk about, right? We like run through the same things over and over, then that's probably net good. But in terms of why, I mean, why does, why does the sun rise? Like, I think it's like these things just happen within our space, and it was time. You know what I mean? The energy was such that it was time.
Interesting. Okay. I don't know. To me, it was such a spike. I was kind of like, there has to be like a real
Okay, so I
reason.
have some theories about that, but I won't,
Oh,
you know.
don't, but say them, say them.
I mean, it's nothing more than what people have said. Well, okay, so so
I mean,
Zcash,
liquidity is very, very thin
yes,
on
yeah.
Zcash.
There,
So it does not take
that's a
much
nice
to
way to
make
say
it
that.
run.
Yeah. There's also a lot of people who've held Zcash for a long time. So, there was a DAT announced recently. I don't know. You can kind of like, I really, I don't
Oh,
want to, like, truly, I don't want to say anything because I'm purely speculating. But if you followed
okay.
narratives in
That makes
DATs
so
for the
so much
past,
sense.
6 months, you can probably deduce what may be going on, may be happening. I don't want to like suggest anything nefarious. Like like Mert's one of our friends, and I'm not suggesting anything like untoward. You can probably make some educated guesses. You could also probably look at who are the big supporters of Zcash in the past, who are the big holders. Like none of this is like private information. So I don't know. That's my guess. Like, yeah, look at a lot of the
I
data.
just like Barry Silver was trying to pump Zcash for like years.
I know,
and
right?
Never, it's just down only chart, and
Yeah,
then Merck comes in and whew.
yeah, I know, right? God tier KOL.
But he's not involved in the debt, is he?
No, I don't think so. But he is. I
An
suppose
enthusiast.
he's a privacy advocate now. Yeah.
Okay, so he's like a whale who heard wind of the debt or something, maybe.
No, I really like. I know you want us to spew gossip into shitposts like we may do on Twitter, but I really don't have any like enlightening information. There's things where I agree with you that you see this like massive, straight up on the chart, and it's like what's going on. Like Doug said, you could go look at like all the exchanges. There's very very little like
Yeah, I just don't
liquidity.
think it would take like the chart's very
doesn't.
impressive, but it doesn't
Exactly.
take much money to make it
Exactly.
look that way. So it doesn't even have to be like most of the Z. It could be like one or two like Zcash.
Right. And
people, right? Like it
lest
almost
we
makes it.
forget, like, what Farcoin ran to well over $1 billion. Like,
Yeah.
This is
Yeah,
a
the
little.
market cap's not super high, right?
No, it's
Like
not
it was
insane.
like
It's not. It's not.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's all diluted. I mean, it's
Okay.
not like a low float coin. So
Right. Yeah, I mean, so I already made this joke on the show, but like to me, just the fact that they named the DAT cypherpunk, like I'm like, it's the least cypherpunk thing that you can do is make a DAT. But anyway, whatever. It's a great name. I'm not criticizing the name. I just find it hysterical. Okay. Next thing. Well, yeah, so we actually didn't cover AI agents, but like that is like such a, I mean, that's been of interest to a lot of people for like the last year. And obviously this X402 standard has piqued a lot of interest. So what are your thoughts on that?
Doug, what do you think of AI agents?
Future of crypto. Uh, no, I've been following the AI agent stuff. Not very. I should follow it more. I guess I feel like there's a lot of hype for. I'm sure there's tech there. I'm sure there's tech underneath, but I think it's very very easy when like OpenAI's at $1 trillion to slap AI on anything crypto and have the valuation run up. So
Doug
I
is
do feel like
Doug is our resident AI doomer.
AI
But
bear.
yeah, but not doomer. Like he doesn't think it's gonna decimate humanity. He's just gonna do nothing for humanity.
I do use it all the time though. Like
I know.
I'm constantly
Every argument we have is
every
you,
argument is just
ChatGPT versus
AI, but
me.
it's AI arguing against AI.
I'm not using AI. Those are my real thoughts.
No, I don't know. I mean, I haven't really been. I just think it's very low signal to noise. So I haven't taken the time really to see what is high signal in there. So
Okay.
I don't really know what the X402 thing, apart from like payments agents to agents. I mean, this whole thing is like a deep, in my opinion, like misunderstanding as to what AI is and like what agents are. It's not like there's this whole hype around autonomous agents interacting and stuff. Like it's just code. Like agents trading. We've had code trading on NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange for 20 years. It's called algorithmic trading, right? Like nobody is hand smashing market orders, right? They have like a system. Like all of this stuff has been intentionally anthropomorphized in order to sell like this narrative of an agent economy. And it's like there's still humans directing people to do this. And I think the whole thing is like somewhat of a charade. I don't know what I saw the X402 thing, and there was like some meme coins that came of it, but I don't actually know what it does. Like it's just another.
It's literally just like a standard. So it just helps create a standard way for people to code AI agents. I did an episode with one of the authors and then somebody who founded a company that also works in this area. And it was really interesting. Yeah, I don't think it's something that you can directly make money from. It's more just like HTTP or, whatever. So, but yeah, you can build something that uses it. Okay, so we don't have a lot of time left, but there's definitely a few other topics we should definitely hit. One is a Kalshi versus Poly market. I mean, this is just, like blood in the streets kind of rivalry, in my opinion. The way these two companies, yeah, just I don't know. It's so interesting. Like Kalshi, trying to get all these different influencers, and like Polymarket doing the same thing. Kalshi, raised $1 billion at an $11 billion valuation. Polymarket raised, at a $12 billion valuation. So basically, I don't know. What do you guys think of this whole thing going down between the two of them?
I think so okay. I agree with you. I actually think it's the most it really is like the most acerbic sort of. I mean, I guess we've dealt with this in crypto for a while. Like
Well, there was
teams,
this like the FBI, right? Like the people
yeah,
are saying
yeah.
like
So like
chain
Kalshi
from
called,
Poly market Kalshi, yeah, accusations that they were.
yeah, that's
I don't know. I
not
Wait,
feel like if you call the FBI on somebody, that's
wait,
hard to
that
repair your
Kalshi
relationship.
called the FBI on Shane? Is that
They're right. This was right after the election. Shane
so
was detained. His phones were searched.
they had Antonio, was it Antonio Brown, I think, tweet
Yeah,
that like this guy looked guilty or something. Okay, first of all,
yeah,
all this is alleged. Like I don't want to get
yeah. Alleged.
sued
Yeah.
here, so I don't know it, but I will say there hasn't been an extreme denial of that from what I can tell on on Kalshi's part. I don't seems like sort of understood to have been true, that they had people. I don't think they necessarily called the FBI on chain, maybe, I don't know, but they did have,
Was
it
this
seemed.
someone from Kalshi was like they were dunking on them though? At least after that, like even if
Yeah,
they
yeah.
weren't, like they were dunking on them on Twitter, like
For sure.
after.
Well,
So
and then
it's like
also I think they did like reach out to influencers to like insinuate that
right. That
Shane was
was it.
guilty.
Right. Like
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So that's really not a very good look. Uh, I don't think that's like again, if true, not a good look. And there was like, I've heard Tarek, is it Tarek? Anyways, I've heard him subsequently
Tarek,
say
I
like
think.
we've made some mistakes. So it's like I don't know if that was an admission or what, but yeah, like that's really not a great look from Kalshi. But like the energy on like the back and forth is like very extreme, right? And I think it's because it's that you have like two sort of novel. I say novel. I mean, you have two companies that are or could eventually make a tremendous amount of money. Like these could potentially be extremely valuable, and they already are to some capacity. And it's like, so the competition is fierce, right? I guess that's maybe the most generous way to interpret it.
Are either of them though large compared to like FanDuel or kind of the traditional betting?
It's a good
I know,
question. I
what
don't
is
know.
DraftKings trading at? Yeah, like
Like trading volume?
no.
Yeah, just like actual like volume, like profit to
So okay, so like so Polymarket and Kalshi are almost valued market cap wise at
yeah, the
the same as Draft.
market
No,
caps
but I'm
make believe, right?
right.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just pointing out that yeah, well, it's all paper.
Yes, yeah, I see what you're yes, I see what you're saying, right.
So
Yeah.
they're like, I mean, they're being underwritten at like I suppose like $100 billion company, but no, I think the vast majority of it is sports betting, it seems, for the time being. I know Polymarket made this big deal of showing that they were a lot more prediction market. They had a lot more prediction market volume, whereas Kalshi maybe is the vast majority of it is sports betting. So, but I don't know. I mean, there's I think what 50,000-60,000 daily active users on both, like, or one Polymarket. Like, we'll see. It does
Yeah,
seem
yeah.
pretty.
I mean, it just strikes I don't know. I don't know this space very well. It feels like you're kind of out ahead of the skis, right? Like we're assuming that like one of them are gonna win, but like to me it seems just as likely like DraftKings. DraftKings does election versus Polymarket does sports.
I think. So I will like sort of disclose, like, I'm friends with people at Polymarket, like, friendly with Shane, I suppose, and also people at Kalshi, so I don't really have a dog in this fight. But yes, I do tend to agree that also, from what I can tell, the legal side of this is by no means worked out. And if there's anybody who is, at like, if you want to talk about a lobby that is extremely protective of what they are granted by the federal government, it is states with gambling and Native American tribes. So there is going to be pushback on this, and we'll see. But I don't think we're done in that capacity, right? Like, we talk about this a lot with some of our friends. Like, I don't think this whole fight is by any means won from prediction markets if they are perceived as gambling similarly to DraftKings, FanDuel, all the massive Las Vegas behemoths.
Yeah. So I just did some quick Googling to try to figure this out, and it looks like the Gemini AI is telling me that Kalshi's trading volume annualized has reached approximately $50 billion as of November. And it also tells me that FanDuel has or in 2024, FanDuel had $50 billion wagered. So I don't know if that's exactly apples to apples, but it seems like, at least there's something.
That's pretty significant.
Yeah. So Polymarket is smaller, but they are only rolling out in the US now, so I would imagine they're gonna catch up at a certain point. Okay, so one other thing that I wanted to ask you guys about. I mean, I actually have a few, 3 more. But one other one, because this just, ICO Beast is associated now with Kalshi, but I'm sure you saw what happened with him and Mega ETH, where he basically was like, "Oh, I, received this allocation," and he was named as one of the, I forget what they called them, but there was like a kind of a tranche that received like more than normal because they had helped the Mega ETH team so much, and he was in that tranche. So I would imagine that his allocation was like pretty significant. And they took it away because he was trying to figure out how to hedge. So because there was like a lockup on that. So what do you make of that?
Doug?
I mean, I don't know. It was a good spectacle, right? Like crypto is all about spectacle. So I don't know. I think it's honestly probably good for Mega ETH, good for Mr. Beast.
Okay, even though he lost his significant allocation.
Yeah. But I mean, it kind of right. It puts him in the spotlight right now. It's like we're talking about him on a year-end recap show on whether KOLs get that treatment. I don't know. I guess it's kind of funny. Maybe it's controversial. Like if you say bad stuff about somebody. I don't know. I don't have a real strong opinion. I thought it was entertaining.
Would you yank someone's allocation if they were shit talking
critical of my projects?
Yeah.
No, I don't think
I think that like I will
No, but
say
it wasn't
this.
that he was critical. It was that he tried to hedge it. That's what it was.
Oh, he tried to hedge it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like
everybody.
he
I
openly
feel like
talked
everybody.
on X about it.
Everybody does it. It's I guess people don't really.
I know, but it was
about
against the rules.
Yeah, it's against the rules.
Okay, so then yeah, I mean he should have to deal with the repercussions. I will say that I only follow this loosely, but I did see it, and I don't think that you tweet something and you probably don't realize what the ramifications of that are. So maybe one thing I would say is like I know I would think maybe like Brother Bing would have reached out to him and been like, hey, like this isn't cool, first. But maybe to make a point, you need to bring down the hammer sometimes. But it wasn't that that's not that egregious. So
Wait, what he did, you mean, or what they did?
I don't think it's what he did, and then I guess also what they. I mean, if it was against the rules, then yeah, like, and if it was lesson learned.
Yeah, it wasn't like allocation he held for like years and was like getting rubbed on the value. Exactly. It was like you're getting a refund for something you did a couple days ago.
Well, and also what given token launches this year, like we'll see if he ends up like losing a ton of money on that. Like maybe that was the greatest thing in the world, right? To be saved 100K or whatever it was. I don't know, but
yeah, I mean, but the point is that whatever they allocated to him, especially like I said, he was in a special tranche where he had helped them the most. So I think it was a very generous allocation. So yeah, that reflects however many years he was helping them, and then now he got nothing for it. But okay,
Well, he's a
next.
Kalshi like shill. He's getting paid, I'm sure, not even just shill. He's like a full-time like part of their PR team. Like he's doing fine, I'm sure. So lesson learned. I don't think what he did was that bad, and I don't think that yanking it's that bad. But like it is. I mean, it was funny. It was funny.
Okay, okay. Let's talk about something that is like intentionally funny, which is Choose Rich Nick has like really broken through to like even non-crypto people. Obviously we all saw the initial like girlfriend tweet. But then, he went viral for May I Meet You. Like now it just feels like he's going viral generally for like a lot of stuff. I was curious for your thoughts on him and that
I think
whole
he's actually really
saga.
funny. I think he's
Yeah, I
He
think
funny.
he's
is.
funny. It's like full caveat, like we've actually worked with him for some stuff on Bogo, but I mean, I look, he kind of reminds me of like Sacha Baron Cohen, like Borat or like Bruno. Like he really picks these characters and leans into them. Definitely takes like some when everyone's yelling at you and mad at you, like to kind of lean in more to it. Takes some special type of personality. But yeah, I think he's funny. He's definitely more
Yeah.
cringe people on
I
Twitter.
don't know if you listen, he came on the show and he was not in his persona and he was so thoughtful. And it was like
Really?
actually yeah, and it was a really, really interesting interview. He like gave us a behind the scenes look at how they do some of their stuff and like I don't know if you remember the Avalanche controversy, but there was some like avalanche event on a yacht and
Oh
then
yeah.
yeah, like so
But I
nobody
thought that
knew
was all
what
like a
happened.
troll, right?
That was only what?
I thought that was like all a troll, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, so he revealed that, like, basically what happened was, he got kicked off, but nobody sort of knew what for, and then Kobe tweeted that what happened was that he had imitated Justin's son with the banana art, but instead he had painted his penis yellow and attached it to the wall, and so Kobe tweeted that, and, like, then suddenly that was, like, the narrative of what actually happened, but yeah, Choose Rich Nick came on the show and revealed actually what really happened, which wasn't that. But anyway. Okay, so the last 2 things, these 2 things are, like, a weird combo, but, so I was just interested for your reaction to the Do Kwon sentence of 15 years.
I'll be honest, it was like so something that seemed fairly obvious as to okay, so first of all, the collapse of Luna, it was like the whole thing was very obvious, right? Like, and it was pretty clear what happened. There's no, yeah, I don't think I think it's fairly straightforward what happened there. Now, I will say that all of the stuff that came out, like so much stuff, it was like information overload, and everything that came out afterwards, it just became like I wasn't gonna follow every little detail as to what transpired both publicly and in the background and all the deals he had with market makers and all this stuff. Like, was he buying this Bitcoin? Like, all this stuff just got like so convoluted and so complex to me. There was this post the other day from somebody who was at Terraform. Is that what it was called? I, it was, I mean, this was like a novella. I mean, it was like, 10 pages would have so I didn't read that, but I did read the last sentence and or the last couple sentences, and there was some sympathy, which, you know, I don't know, like at the end of the day, like how much was it patently a Ponzi scheme or was it transparent what he was doing? I think that's one side of it, and then the other side of it was he doing illegal stuff in the background, which it ended up appearing yes. But I don't know. I mean, it's one of these things where the whole thing was so obviously broken that I mean, it gets to the market cap it did, like, there was gonna be a fallout, and yeah, it's been It's been pretty extreme.
Yeah,
So
so do you think he should be in prison for 15 years for that?
I don't know. I really like again.
Yeah, I feel like Luna itself, right? Like everyone knew
Right.
kind of the rules of it. I don't think he should be in prison for 15 years because like Luna was like a Ponzi scheme that was transparent and it was kind of like right like 2022 people or 2021 people are kind of nuts. But like to Gord's point, like I don't know all the things in court, like who like what was the one thing like the chai like payments thing he was lying about like
Yeah.
how much that was used like right like
Yeah.
you know he I'm sure he was doing so much stuff like where's their fraud like where was he like lying to people about which doesn't change like the insurance like how Luna works right like this is still like ultimately right like a silly thing but and maybe it doesn't like I don't know how many people were buying Luna based on like Chai would have like a lot of transaction volume. My guess is probably not many in 2021. I think people are buying a lot of crypto. Those are just silly, but like I'm sure he did enough that there's probably actual like fraudulent acts.
He's not the most endearing character. Like, I mean, the way he interacted with people for 2 years was so boisterous. It was so arrogant and it's kind of like an Icarus type thing, right? Like if anything that type of attitude makes it more likely that when this does unravel, when things do blow up, that people are very, very curious as to what was going on in the background. And when you are making claims that are probably end up being patently untrue, like, I don't know. I mean, if he was sort of like a demure Jeff from Hyperliquid type who never really was public facing and wasn't really publicly saying what was going on in the background, right? But there may have been some like, kind of reap what you sow. And from what I can tell, I don't know, 15 years seems like a lot, but maybe it's maybe it's not enough. I don't know. Like, but he's not somebody who I'm like, wow, what a great guy. Like, man, what a shame he got screwed. Like, maybe he's in jail for 10 more years than he should be, right? Like, I don't know. But yeah, I don't have like much. I wasn't really keyed into that after it fell apart.
Yeah, I
Yeah, that
also
was
didn't
definitely
follow, the fraudulent bits. The one sentiment that I saw on Twitter that made a lot of sense to me was that, yeah, people lost a lot of money in Luna, but they lost like paper gains, which is different from like FTX and SBF where they, well, although no, yeah, I guess even some of that could be the same, but it's like they,
I mean,
yeah, I don't know.
UST went to 0, and that
yeah
wasn't
UST was
that wasn't really a paper
no
gain if
gains on
people
that.
were
Well,
Yeah,
it I guess how much
well,
interest you were stacking, but yeah, you were
but it's
well,
probably
I
more
mean, dude,
like,
if you deposited 100K into UST to get 20% yield and it goes to 0,
yeah
you lost
you're right. It doesn't.
100K. So I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
unless if you got a
know.
but
year of yeah. No, you're
But
right. You're
also
right.
one
20
other thing
grand,
about
cool.
that is like hopefully people were educated to understand the risks. Whereas like what's different with FTX is like he literally took the actual funds, whereas like Doe, it was like a failed thing
Yeah,
and like
I do
yeah,
agree. I do agree
so
with that. Like FTX was straight up that money was stolen. Like there
Yeah.
is and there was no and like UST like the UST mechanism itself. Like I actually like people might be mad or whatever, but like people knew what they were getting into, and it's just like a question of what's fraudulent, you know, around what he was saying to telling different people. But no one was deceived. Like oh, there's actual dollars behind
yeah,
UST.
yeah. Okay. So last really quick thing I want to touch on is like, what do you think of this quantum threat that everybody's talking about? Like, are you following that? Like, I don't know. Some people are saying that Nick Carter is like over, overreacting to this potential threat. Do you think this is something crypto people should worry about or not?
Okay, I just did a podcast today on this, so I'm gonna show my podcast. I was not going to show my podcast, but
Well,
now I
I
shall.
mean, this isn't coming out for like another week after we're recording anyway. So
Okay, well,
you're
okay,
good.
so I just did a podcast on this. Go back and listen to it now with a guy who is a longtime Bitcoin developer, not a core dev, but just somebody who's like independently hacking away on Bitcoin for a while, and he is not a quantum researcher, okay? He's not a physicist, but he is somebody who I think is quite bright and is quite pragmatic. He is very, very skeptical. Um, with that said, I don't think so. I think Nick is what he's doing is in earnest. Like I read the first one. I'm not concerned about quantum. Um, yeah, that's like my take is that I have basically I think there's actually a lot of other concerns prior to quantum for crypto. One, like a use case, to getting people to utilize
Security budget,
yeah,
security budget. That was last cycle's FUD.
yeah, exactly. Again, with Bitcoin, most of the stuff, at least to me, right? Like long time, like digging my heels, don't care bull is okay. Like all this stuff doesn't really phase me because I'm gonna live by the sword, die by the sword. Like whatever happens, happens. So like I'm not. I am very unconvinced on quantum. I also am like the last person you should ask about quantum. So I hope that helps. Doug, you're
Okay.
more of a computer scientist than I am.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's hard to predict. I feel like there's gonna be like it's not all of a sudden there's gonna be quantum computer tomorrow. So like I think what people are afraid of is like, oh, Bitcoin core devs are like it's so ossified at this point that like you can't even make a small change or take 10 years and like, they'll be able to develop this whole new type of technology before Bitcoin core can even like make a 3-line code change to the protocol.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like it's small on my things to worry about. I think there's definitely other things to worry about. But that being said, I do think like it. I would guess it's probably contributing to kind of the crappy performance of Bitcoin the past couple months. Like you talk to
I'm a
boomers and they're
little
like, "Oh, what
okay.
about quantum?"
Yeah, I'm a little skeptical of that. Like I'm
You don't think
personally
so?
well, I say I'm a little skeptical. Like I don't doubt that's a thing, but we can always assign some valid reason for
Fun?
FUD at any
Yeah,
given
yeah,
point. Like
yeah.
for example, like I heard a few months ago that all this Bitcoin's ending up with Sailor in ETFs, and longtime holders are concerned that it's lost its cypherpunk ethos. And I'm like, people just sometimes have gains of 10,000x from mining Bitcoin, and they can now exit and buy their, villa in Nice or, in Mallorca. Like there are reasons that people sell, and we try to ascribe like, whatever is the current reason for the market being down. We're trying to like ascribe that to, that's the reason they're selling. And like in reality, I think people just sell stuff, and I don't I would be very surprised if a lot of ETF selling and institutional selling is because of quantum FUD, primarily because those people know exactly zero about quantum. So for them to just start yeeting and like, nuking the chart would surprise me.
Is that you don't have to know a lot about something to trade on the narrative, though.
Yeah, but again, I'm just saying like there's all sorts of narratives at any given
Yeah,
point
I
that
agree
you
with you. Right? There's chart, and then you come up with explanations after
exactly.
the fact for the
So
chart.
almost everything that people, say is why, Bitcoin's nuking, the market's not doing well. It's like, okay, maybe sometimes people just sell and, they want to go buy a new house. Like it's not like we don't have to overthink it. And also the market is derived from like trillion different individual preferences, right? Like it's never one single thing at any given point. So like, I don't know.
All right, fair point. Really.
Okay, you guys. Well, this has been super fun. Before we, say goodbye, this is going to be the last episode of 2025. Do you want to give a 2026 prediction?
I think 2026 will be better, but only because it feels like up only from here, right? I do personally feel like we've likely bottomed. So I think 2026 will be better. Fed's about to inject a bunch of capital into the system. So,
Yeah.
we always have to rely on these external narratives. that are like-
Everything is just liquidity.
When
Right,
somebody
like
says QE, I'm like, all right, that's good enough for me. Like, we were just talking about quantum FUD. We were just talking about the FUD. I do the exact same thing, but for bullish reasons. I'm like, oh, QE, like there we go. Like I don't know what that means, but like I'll latch onto that narrative, no problem.
Yeah, I think 2020 like can't get. I mean, I guess it could get a lot worse, but it feels like people are like max pessimism, like cynicism. I don't know, like you go on like crypto Twitter, it's like how cynical are people, and that's usually good like counter signal. Like when people are kind of this max cynicism thing, that's actually when crypto tends to run, and then the opposite when they're like euphoric about stuff, then like buying into narratives that don't make any sense is actually usually when you want to sell. So I
Yeah.
think it's good from here.
All right. Well, you guys, this was super fun. Thanks so much for chatting with me about all the events of 2025.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. Laura's fun. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And Happy New Year, everyone. Catch y'all later.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Bits and Bips. This will be our last one for the year of 2025. Today, I'm your host, Austin Campbell, the high scholar of Zero Knowledge Consulting. I'm here with my usual co-conspirator, Chris Perkins, the Golden Hand of Coin Fund. And today, we are joined by John DiAgostino of Coinbase. And I've got to stop here momentarily to say I am super happy to have John on, specifically because we have previously had a number of connections doing research in this space, presenting things in front of Congress. And if you learn nothing else from this episode, John is one of the people that actually brings data and knows what he's talking about to this debate. So everybody should follow this guy. Now, on that note, disclaimers first. Nothing we say here is investment advice, and in general, don't take investment advice solely from podcasts. Check unchainedcrypto.com, bits and bips, for more disclosures, and we'll get to predictions right after a word from some sponsors.
Mantle is launching the Global Hackathon 2025 to accelerate the future of real-world assets. With a $150,000 prize pool, backing from a $4 billion treasury, and direct access to Bybit's 7 million plus users, this is the ultimate ecosystem for builders.
All right, welcome back, everybody. I promised you some predictions, so let's start with those and get moving off the ground. Chris, myself, and John have not shared these with each other beforehand. So, one, there's a non-zero chance that we either predict the same thing or directly oppose things, which will be hilarious. But two, you will get our genuine reactions. We have not shared these as of yet. So, Chris, I'm going to give you the choice. Do you want to go first, or do you want to pick one of us to go first?
I think we should have the guest go first. I mean, he's here. We have to give him the honors, right?
Works for me.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna dive in with a juicy one for you, Austin. So a major global brand, its own economic system. So think Disney, Amazon, something like that, which powers its own kind of tightly coiled, sticky economic system, will announce a stablecoin in 2026. So you will not be able to, it'll be optional, you'll be able to use fiat, but you will be strongly encouraged to use either Amazon or Disney or Netflix's or some other economic systems stablecoin as value transfer within that system. And we'll see how sticky their brand actually is. Might be Temu, not sure. That's my first one.
John,
Okay.
you didn't mention X, Twitter.
It's in there. It's in there.
All right.
I just know how is the way you engage with X value transfer. I think it has to be a brand where value transfer is the core of its economic model, and versus data transfer. And then we'll see if people are willing to deal with the friction associated with moving into stables writ large, not crypto natives, to stay in that economic system or reap the benefits of it.
So is this a front to back, like building their own infrastructure, getting their own,
No, they're going to use
essentially?
Coinbase. No, they're gonna
Seriously, are they going to? Is it white label or is it like
they're going to outsource it? They're definitely going
Outsource
to
it.
outsource it. Yeah.
Well, I was going to pile in to say, I think legally they have to outsource it, right? Like if you read Genius, these companies are technically prohibited from launching their own stable coins if you're not a financial services company. But that doesn't say anything, John, to your point about, say, take Starbucks, for example, right? As somebody who's dabbled in crypto in the past, they could easily go to a Coinbase like a Circle or like a PayPal and simply adopt the stable coin that somebody else has, like maybe put their name and brand on the front of it.
Yeah.
But if you're not legally running the thing, like you're not managing the reserves, you're not handling the payments, then it's probably kosher under Genius because they have a very clear definition of what the issuer is. And so to unravel this a little bit, maybe for people who are not familiar with US payments, when you currently go somewhere like the deli and you tap a card to pay, there are like 3 to 4 different people taking a cut out of that thing, depending on what you've done, right? Like you have the issuing bank, you have the acquiring bank, and you have the card network itself, all taking money out of that. And I say 4 because sometimes they're also paying rewards back to the consumer, depending upon the card. And those margins for retailers are significant. Those can be 2 to 3 percentage points easily. And look, for somebody who's selling like extremely high value legal services, like that margin is kind of irrelevant. But for somebody who's an extremely high turnover business, like John, I believe you referenced Amazon, where their margins can be low single digit percentage points, capturing any portion of that is transformative for the business. So if we're thinking about core economic drivers, I agree with you. Counterpoint, I want to throw this back to the two of you. Do you think that is actually a 2026 line item, or is this the classic case of getting a UI UX people will adopt, getting everything buttoned down, getting everything implemented, we'll push it into 27?
So, John, I want to ask before we get to that, you guys just made a huge announcement about people being able to brand their own stablecoins using your kit. And is this what you're talking about, essentially, that business line taking off?
Well, it's you can argue that, or you can argue that we felt the need to announce it because we see this coming, right? I think both are true, quite frankly. But Austin, to your point, the safe bet is that it'll bleed. I guess I'll refine it by saying the announcement will happen in 2026. Whether implementation can occur in 26, I'm not sure. But I think you're right. I think that'll take longer. So unless it's a Q1 announcement, I don't think we see it go live by Q4. But I'll stand by an announcement in 2026.
I totally agree with you, John. I think it's a no-brainer. Like I talked about it last week. Stablecoins are the new net interest income. Today you're not making money on those payments, and someone's capturing that interest. If I imagine as you start issuing your stablecoin, you're going to capture a share of the net interest income. It makes sense for any business model you're in. So, I totally agree. I guess to me this is just an obvious, next step in the industry. Like very, very linear. We all knew this was coming. So I think the question is timing. So my question then is, this is my first prediction. How big is the stablecoin market by the end of the year next year?
That's a question, not a prediction.
I have my number, but I want to know yours.
You can't offload your prediction.
I want guess what first.
I have my number.
My number. Chris is in the internal trader move of no, you make the market first.
I'll give you my number. My number I think is a little bit weak, but I'm going with 600 billion, which is about. I called 500 this year. I was wrong. We ended up around 310. Austin, correct me if I'm wrong. 310 billion. I think it doubles next year. I'm just going to round it and say 600 billion. I think years after that, it goes vertical, but I'm being a little bit weak. I think this year saying 600 billion by the end of next year. Thoughts?
My number for the end of next year of what we would traditionally call stable coins today is probably about 500 billion. But the lurking variable within that is we don't know what's going to happen with people potentially tokenizing their own balance sheets. And that number for some of these things can be exponentially big, right? Like, good example. If one of the big four banks says, we're just moving to a 24/7 collateral system, it just tokenizes all the collateral in there. Stable coins, if we're defining that as like the money object, that being like T-bills and tokenized deposit, could easily be over $1 trillion. Right, with one flip of a switch, just because of how people essentially run their internal ledger. So to me, the problem there is a definitional one, Chris, of like, what do we mean when we say stable coins? Like, are tokenized bills on Onyx or Connexus or whatever JP Morgan's calling it now stable coins? Because if so, that number could be trillions.
Well, I'll up you there. Is Athena a stable coin? I think we agree that it's not. It's a tokenized basis trade. So I would say fully backed. Obviously, Genius compliant, which Genius doesn't even go into effect until January 27, or latest, I guess. But like, I'm thinking about like truly backed stable coins like the Tethers, the Circles, and similar folks, not just Genius compliant. I don't think you include tokenized bank deposits in that number. That's a separate product. As our friend Omin Malakin says, it is a receipt on a fractional bank, which is not a stable coin. So, I think
I might counter that Genius says otherwise, given that bank deposits are one of the assets within Genius. Like this, so this is going down the rabbit hole of why I asked
I don't agree with the meat on that.
Yeah,
I don't agree with the meat on that. I think bank deposits are stable. That would be tokenized bank deposits would be stable coins. Austin, you think we're not?
Well, so here's kind of the hilarious thing that I've been pointing out to some of the bank people who've been lobbying for an even harder yield ban. is I'm like, you guys realize that tokenized bank deposits are stable coins under Genius, so you're arguing to ban your own ability to pay your customers, right? And so, like, I didn't know the banking industry wanted Reg Q back that badly. That's news to me. But yeah, like, guys, tokenized bank deposits are a fully permissible asset under Genius, meaning I could have a stable coin filled with 100% tokenized bank deposit. So if I wrap my tokenized bank deposit, put it on a blockchain, in a literal sense, that is probably a Genius stable coin. So like all you banks with tokenized deposits out there, think very hard about what you're saying as you talk about these things, because if you break that and now you want to tokenize your derivatives collateral, but you can't pay the interest on it anymore, you can't use your blockchains.
All right, so we just really confused everybody.
Yes.
That was
my job.
We settle on the definition for
all right,
stable.
let me give a super stable coin hot take. That is my first prediction. If everybody is ready for that, U.S. dollar stable coins will be completely banned in at least one major foreign nation in 2026.
Oh, come on, that's obvious as well.
Is it?
U.S. dollar.
I think so. Like, I mean, this is one of the big challenges. We're already hearing, the BIS is concerned. How many, senior regulators, particularly coming out of Europe, are very nervous about dollar supremacy. Dollars are going to displace emerging markets. It's taking an avenue of control away from leaders that maybe shouldn't be leaders. I think this is a no-brainer, and I do think you're going to see dollar stablecoins banned.
Well, let's take it further. So, Austin, would you refine it by saying, is this going to be a Eurozone country?
I think especially in the developing world.
I would say the Eurozone are the most likely sets of candidates because they seem super happy to get into a fight and attempt to ban American technology in all forms now. So yeah, probably Eurozone. My number two is China.
Ooh, that's super spicy.
Right.
Yeah.
Again,
and I also think across the developing world, like Africa, it's gonna, it's hard, but it's.
I'm not sure from a currency standpoint, I would classify anybody in Africa as a major player. Brazil would count.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But my punchline is, I think somebody in, call it the G12-ish range, is going to ban U.S. dollar stablecoins because exactly, Chris, as you got to. These things give their citizens a way to get out of the local system and hold dollars instead, which is not just important for the FX. That part matters. In fact, it matters even more in the developing world. But equally so, it gives people a way to get out from like legal norms and rule of law. Because let's say I'm in Europe and I say a bunch of things that people don't like, and they want to hit me with a massive fine under some of their essentially anti-free speech laws. Well, if all of my money is in a dollar stablecoin, do you think a U.S. court is going to be responsive to that under speech grounds? Probably not. And that sort of like challenge to sovereignty, I think people are going to essentially, a little bit like what's going on with speech, have a reckoning with how the internet actually works, which is to say, if I'm in, let's pick a country, Germany, do I get to tell the Americans how the internet works in America just because a German used it?
I think if the argument is protection against capital flight, I think there's a higher probability of China doing it than Eurozone.
That's where the China prediction comes in.
Yeah. I mean, that's if China does that, then I think the probability of them either soft or hard moving on Taiwan goes up materially in sync with that. I mean, that's a total rejection of bilateral monetary relations. And then I think the probability of it, I was thinking about that being one of my predictions, that China does a soft or hard move on Taiwan in 2026. I backed off on it because I think they're going to wait until our chips manufacturing is at a point where us retaliating doesn't make economic sense. But I think I'll add to yours. If they do what you just said they'll do, I think they move on Taiwan in sync.
I mean, certainly, what's the right way to say this? My prediction is premised upon decreasing global coordination across all major nations, which has now been a multi-year theme, basically since COVID. That has been ongoing. Yeah, deglobalization. Well, not just deglobalization, but also desynchronization, right? It's not just we're doing less with each other. It's also we disagree with each other more. And I think that is a point that has maybe been underpriced in markets generally, and dollar dominance is terrifying to a lot of people who would like to do that, exactly as Europe's economy is hollowing out. So, all right, Chris.
Let's not disagreeing with each other. We're too much in sync. Come on, Chris.
All right, this one is kind of related, actually, fellas. I'm concerned that there's going to be the mother of all hacks next year.
Ooh.
It's going to be greater than $2 billion in size. It's probably going to be by our friends in North Korea. And it's going to lead to a material downturn, drawdown, and it's going to require a complete policy rethink. I'll give you some stats. This year, looks like we're closing out the year with 3.4 billion. It's a 51% increase. Remember the Bybit hack kicked the year off at 1.5. So I don't like to say it, but it's something that keeps me awake at night. And I say it because I think we all need to be thinking about it. It's the one thing that's going to derail. Like, we have so many good things coming together, except for price, but it's the one thing that like keeps me awake at night. John, I know that you guys just sorted through that $400 million issue you had. I don't know. I hate to start with bearish themes, but that's one thing that I'm worried about. Some hack greater than 2 billion, forcing a major rethink.
So let me agree and disagree with you. So I agree with you that there's a high probability of a major hack occurring. People are really underestimating the importance of having a nation state backed group like the Lazarus Group that is able to act with impunity. I mean, when I was reading about them recently, I called up my buddies at MIT and I was like, hey, are they just smarter than everyone? And they were like, no, they're like, they just get to act with impunity. Like they're nation state backed. They don't have to worry about getting arrested. Obviously, we have hackers in the NSA, but I don't think our hackers are trying to kill specific companies and rob money. So they're the only large-scale nation-state-backed hacking group that has the support of the government. So I'll agree with you there. High probability of a big value money hack. I disagree with you that a money hack will disrupt much. What I think disrupts more are hacks like the Panama Papers, where information about, so if the hack includes data and information about people using crypto in nefarious ways, not just loss of value, then I think we have a big structural problem. If it's just people lose money, we're not a sympathetic audience. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Nobody cares if crypto people get hacked.
But we also have trillions coming on chain, and that's the difference. As you have,
if it's the wrong people, I agree. If it's moms and pops and dentists and doctors who are touching crypto for the first time, then it's a problem. If it's a hack that information of nefarious activity is revealed, then it's a problem. If it's just a bunch of crypto natives having their Bitcoin stolen,
nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Yeah,
but I think that's the problem. Yeah.
It would have to be one of two kinds of hacks for this prediction to be true. One is, for instance, one of the big ETFs, right? Like if everything gets stolen from like IBIT or FBTC, that is an existential event.
Dentists, I agree.
The other one would be somebody actually compromises the smart contract keys for one of the major stablecoin issuers. Because like if I hijack Tether and could just mint 3 trillion of Tether and go buy everything, right? Like you have a very big problem. In fact, back to Omid, he and I had this debate on Bankless at one point where I was saying I do not think the current crypto market infrastructure works for tokenized real assets because we've created a huge single point of failure on issuer security, right? Because like I want to be clear, I think they have very good security, but if somebody compromises Tether's smart contract keys, now what?
Yeah.
Right.
All right. That's my last bearish one of the day.
Well, so I want to, what's the right way to say this? Take that in the opposite direction to throw one out, and then we'll go back to John. Part of what many of these discussions reveal is that these issues are vastly more complex than people realize. And as you start, call it descending down the stairs, it's like, oh, I'm in the basement, and then basement level 2, and then basement level 3, and then basement. How many basements are there? So one of my predictions for 2026 is clarity will not pass in the United States. And I think it will not pass because as Congress continues to educate itself here, this stuff is just way too complicated.
John?
I think if it doesn't pass, it will not be, I'm trying to disagree, but Austin knows the football team better than me. But I do think this. I think that if it doesn't pass, it's not because it's too complex, because I think they pass things they don't understand all the time. I think if I were to agree with Austin about it not passing, I think it's because the Democrats have momentum right now. And I think serious momentum. And in fact, I was interviewed about 2-3 weeks ago, and I was asked about the price action in crypto. And I said, the only thing I see that's different between now and 2-3 months ago is growing confidence in Democratic momentum down in DC. So I'll say I tentatively, I won't disagree with Austin because I just don't know the political scene as well. I hope that's not true. But if it is true, I think it's going to be because of shifting political momentum, not necessarily because for the first time ever, politicians have decided they need to be thoughtful and understand a policy before they enact it.
Yeah, I think that's becoming consensus, Austin, on clarity that it probably won't. We're pretty much assured it's not going to get passed before midterms. Question is does it get passed after midterms? I don't know, man. I agree with you. Having been in DC, in and around DC long enough, it's just a super complex bill, John. Not because of the policy's not complex, the power is complex, because you're moving power from ag to banking to ag. It just makes it a lot harder. And we saw how hard Genius was. So I tend to agree. I think the question that I would come back to you with, Professor, would be modular, right? Instead of getting one big, beautiful Clarity Act, are we going to get pieces of it? Are we going to get, are we going to break it up? We asked Patrick on that, Patrick Witt at the White House, and he said, we're not considering that yet. There's probably going to be a time when they pivot to modularity. Do you think that's possible? And if so, is a taxonomy that we focus on?
Yeah, I would say, one, I will remind everybody that the White House said that we're not separating market structure from Genius until they realized, well, we can definitely get Genius, and if we attach it to market structure, it's not going anywhere. And that was when you make that deal. So I do think there's a chance you do that. I would tell you, I think the least controversial part of Clarity is actually the taxonomy. I know a lot of people in crypto have views about it, but there's something in there that is good enough that Congress could get to that I think we don't have a problem with. I think the parts where there's going to be like really severe heartburn and the political dynamics get exceptionally gnarly are around how do we define DeFi? Like, what is that? What is control? Where do we draw the boundaries? And I would tell you, I don't think there's consensus there. And part of my complexity one is, you had people propose some things that facially were like, oh, we think this works and it's simple. And then you get things coming in horizontally to the debate that you didn't even expect. Like, what do you do when a web browser company suddenly shows up and goes, wait, why the fuck do you think we're a money transmitter? And they're like, well, we didn't mean that at all. And they're like, that is what you wrote down. And then the whole debate, the wheels just come off. So I think DeFi is going to be really hard because step one is what do you think you mean when you say DeFi is a very complicated process. Two, the AML KYC debate is broken, right? And I say that because you have the banking faction who wants everybody to have to KYC everything, not because they think it's the right policy, but because that's the best way to protect their current walled garden, is force other people to like hammer into that shape so that you can't do new things that they're not intermediating. You have a bunch of, I'm going to call it crypto natives who don't want KYC at all and are strongly opposed to all of these things. And then I would say you have a bunch of like tech and intelligence people who are like, actually, we like blockchains for open source intelligence reasons, and maybe we should KYC less things, but have more information transparency. And all three of those groups disagree with each other. And none of them, I would say, have a majority opinion, right? And so that makes it very hard to move that bill because we can't set an AML KYC standard for interacting with things on chain, right? Like that just becomes an absolute blocker. So if you're thinking of modularity, the token standards, I think, are pretty doable. And any requirements you're going to attract or like attach to, call it centralized entities like Coinbase, the exchange, for instance, or like crypto custodians, probably more in the realm of doable.
Yeah, the AML KYC, I agree with you. It's becoming increasingly intractable. There's a wide disconnect, I see. It's funny. I flew to Dubai a couple weeks ago, and for the first time ever, I didn't take my passport out of my luggage the entire trip. I did biometrics in the US. I've been doing it for years in the UAE, but the first time ever came through US, went through global entry, en route back, pure biometrics. So I was shocked at the market jump in modernization of TSA AML KYC, or know your citizen at least. And it seems like, and Austin, you're the first person to put it this way. I was wondering why sort of the traditional financial sectors had stayed so analog, remained so analog around it. By the way, it's not just the US. I sit on Cayman boards. I have to go to notaries a couple times a month. It's an unbelievably arduous process. And you're the first person, Austin, to kind of point out the obvious, which is that that's a feature, not a bug, of protecting that moat. So that it seems like we're a long way off, just philosophically, from being comfortable with it, and then the technology has to catch up. So I tend to agree that we're not going to cross the AML KYC hurdle here in the U.S. for a very long time.
I think, and Chris, I would be super curious about your opinion on this, but I'll say it this way. I actually think the divide that will eventually break that logjam is not between the crypto people and the banking industry. It is between the national security people and the banking industry, where enough NatSec people are going to get annoyed at how analog this is and how hard it is to see things while they see things like Lazarus happening. That it's one thing for you to be a bank executive in Washington arguing, well, those crypto people are untrustworthy. Look at all those scammers. Like, why would you let them set the standards? Fine. Very different argument to have, like, oh, I don't know, senior folks from the intelligence agencies on the other side of the table saying, actually, you guys are damaging U.S. national security by not doing a good job with this information. Those are two very different problems.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think DeFi is going to be really hard to get done. So they're going to probably have to carve it out. You know, the other issue that we didn't talk about was two other issues that are stopping it from going. We talked about in the past. They just hate Trump and they don't want to give him anything. And, you know, ethically, they want to address ethics, big problem, and then stablecoin interest. So, yeah, I'm with you on that prediction.
Is the Trump administration, I know they're pro crypto, are they pro DeFi specifically? Is that nuance teased out in your understanding?
I don't think there's coherent, I guess, focus on DeFi. There's a lot of agendas. You know, in and around how that policy should work. I think if you talk to the executive office and like the Patrick Ricks of the world, they get it. They want to make it work in a thoughtful way. But I think there's a lot of agendas, both Republican and Democrat.
I would also say, if I want to steelman the Democratic view on that, for the informed ones, their objection really is more around things like world liberty than specifically CeFi or DeFi. Like, if you want to read into the Democratic thinking of the informed people, go read the text of what Representative Torres proposed for an anti-corruption amendment, which is basically essentially, if you're a federal legislator, executive branch senior employee, or anybody in the judiciary, you just can't be involved with this stuff, period, full stop. And then there's also an attachment to family members, which, I'll be transparent, I've given them feedback that's way too overbroad, but you could definitely put a thing in there about like acting in concert or delivering benefit to. You can't just capture all family members, because like if a senator has a brother who hates him and that guy gets elected to the Senate, you can't ban that guy's activities. But
yeah, it seems like we'll have kind of clarity around how we expect our politicians to engage with crypto faster than we'll have clarity around how we expect our politicians to engage with the stock or credit markets. Like that's kind of funny, right? I mean, because my understanding is there are not clear rules, right? Which is why the Republicans accuse the Democrats of front running markets and the Pelosi indicator and all this. And I know there's shenanigans that go on, but I'm sympathetic because it doesn't appear that as a society we have codified rules around how we expect our government officials to engage with capital markets. So it's funny that we're going to lead with crypto. That's
what we've been telling him. You know, yeah, you got an ethics issue, but it's not a crypto issue. It's an ethics issue. Address it across products. And another good reason to maybe modularize things.
I mean, I'll tell you right now, I think it would be a hugely positive thing for the United States to just have a generic, like, federal and congressional sort of ethics bill around all of this stuff, because it shouldn't be the case that somebody can launch the Nancy Pelosi ETF and massively beat the market, right? Like, something is wrong there when that's happening.
Yeah.
It is kind of weird. I mean, every company I've ever worked for has pretty clear personal trading rules. Like, it's not like there's not enormous precedent around this. Just, you know, go grab whatever Goldman Sachs is doing and just implement it for Congress and Senate. But but crypto will lead the way. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Regulatory clarity for equity and credit vis-a-vis crypto.
All right, let's do one more prediction of yours, and then we're going to have to do one more roll of ads before we keep arguing.
I have an anti-prediction, meaning I'm going against Twitter conspiracy consensus, and I will say none of these three things will occur in 2026. It's a prediction because everyone seems to think they will. So none of these things will happen. We will not achieve AI general intelligence. Quantum computing will not be a scalable, viable threat to crypto or any form of any form of substantive crypto cybersecurity. And alien life will not be confirmed. Those are my 3 countercultural predictions from at least the Twitter algorithm. I'm gonna let you, but my algorithm is full of people claiming this is absolutely certain. None of it's going to happen. Deal with it.
All right. Well, I am on the record as being a pretty deep AGI skeptic, saying I think people are misunderstanding how these models work. So I am definitely on board with that one, right? Like I think the problem we have with the AI debate right now actually is a little bit like the problem we were having with the crypto debate in 2022, which is to say you have people making fantastical claims that this thing will reinvent every single thing in the world and replace everything forever, always, and other people saying it's a flaming tire fire that will destroy humanity, and with nobody in the middle or with a nuanced view other than like tens of people at the time. And I actually think a lot of that is washed out in crypto, and we're starting to have more granular discussions, which is good, but it took us like 4-ish years to get there. I think AI is still crypto in 2022. You have people being like, AI will run everything, agents will do everything, there will be no jobs, like it's all over. And then you have people on the other side being like, essentially the Paul Krugman, like, I don't see how this is better than the fax machine type critique. And the truth is somewhere in the middle, which is like, if you understand the functional process of an LLM, there are certain kinds of brute force tasks that are not super accuracy demanding where they're incredibly powerful, like incredibly powerful. They will have transformative effects in those spaces. They are very good at some levels of heuristics. They're very good at being approximately right. And they're very good at doing that at scale and finding connections between data sets that might not have otherwise been found. But the idea that you can take that, which is essentially, call it a scaled sort of like super librarian, if you will, and generate totally new forms of intelligence from it, like citation needed. That's the old math gag of like, first this happens, then a miracle happens, then this happens. It's like citation needed for this step, guys. Right. And I'll just say, if people want to send it to me, great, but I've seen no evidence so far that any of the LLMs are falsifying the prediction of it gets harder to get gains as they get better. And while they're very good at finding links between data sets, they are not good at generating wholly new data or new ideas. And you need that for AGI.
They're not creative. Yep.
I am excited about quantum. I'll be honest with you. I've been starting to dig into it a bit. And I think when you bring AI together with quantum, you're going to be able to accelerate. You know, people have been studying quantum for a long time. I think I was looking at Columbia the other day. They started in like 1909. They've had a Columbia program focused on quantum, but I think we're now starting to see some acceleration. And I don't think that, ubiquitous quantum capabilities are going to be online in the next year or so. But I think, as we get towards, a few years from now, 5 years out, it's good to start thinking about it now. Like other technologies, it's not going to be good or bad. It's going to be unleash amazing compute, incredible iterative modeling. You're going to see a lot of diseases being cured that we didn't think were curable. And there's going to be some bad parts to it too. But I do think it's starting to accelerate. Not next year.
I mean, I think the other question with quantum, sort of back to John's maybe original point earlier about the hacks, is like, is Bitcoin really the thing we're worried about? Right? Like, if we can break encryption as we currently use it, there are much more valuable targets than Bitcoin. Like, this is sort of being like, I have created a device to become completely invisible, and I'm going to use it to steal candy from Target. And it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah, the analogy I keep thinking is it would be the equivalent of teleportation. Right. That would be it. So if tomorrow teleportation was a real scalable thing, then locks, doors, all types of physical security, everything goes away. Right. Our entire way of thinking about physical security is completely transformed. The last thing we'll be worried about is I guess you worry about like theft, but you worry about personal physical safety, first and foremost. And so that's going to work. I think what I look at, I'm lucky to for AI, for AGI, I'm lucky to sit in this position where I'm a fellow at CSAIL at MIT, so I get to hear what they're saying. And it seems that for both, qubit production on quantum and the way AI is growing, they're suffering from the same thing that I've seen every bad trader suffer from, which is just linear interpolation of recent trends. And it's like, maybe it's just beaten into me, Chris, and also because I've seen it, people fail in trading for so many years of just taking that short-term data trajectory and expanding it up. Like if that's true, the human beings be running a sub 1 second 100-yard dash.
Correct.
Right? But as we all know, it just gets increasingly harder to get that marginal unit of return. So
right.
I just see them falling into the same, and then also the marketing gimmickry, and like Austin, you mentioned before, like these two camps of it's going to change everything, it's going to kill us. I actually think those two extremes are towards the same marketing goal, because what better way to get you to invest in my thing than to say, oh my goodness, if we don't stop it, it's going to kill everyone, right? That's a very important thing that you absolutely need to invest in. So I think the fear mongering and the hopium are kind of the same silliness. And the end result is, like you said, which is massively transforming some industries, definitely transforming how we do certain things, freeing up time in some areas, increasing the amount of time we have to devote to other areas. But I'm not a Paul Krugman on this at all. But this notion that, again, massive unemployment in the near term, in the next, like, let's say 3 years, beyond that, who the hell knows, is just kind of silly.
I mean, it's kind of like, as a final thought on that one before we flip to the ad, the personal computer did not destroy the economy. It may have transformed a lot of jobs and changed how we do things, but
And
like
the calculator did not.
Accountants didn't vanish because of the personal computer. Mathematicians are not gone because of the calculator, right? It will just change how jobs work. So, all right, on that note, let us go to our ad roll here, and then we'll come back and argue about some more predictions.
Mantle has entered a new phase as the distribution layer connecting TradFi and on-chain liquidity. To accelerate this vision, the Mantle Global Hackathon 2025 is inviting developers to build scalable RWA and DeFi products. Why build on Mantle? It's an ecosystem built for builders. You get direct access to Bybit's 7 million plus users for potential listing exposure, support from the $4 billion Mantle treasury, and mentorship from top VCs like Spartan and Animoca brands. With 6 tracks prioritizing RWAs and RealFi, and a $150,000 prize pool plus grants, this is your chance to deploy on a high-performance modular L2. Register now. The link is in the show notes.
All right, welcome back. Chris, I'm going to counter your bearishness by hitting you with a prediction that is simultaneously bullish and bearish and will make a lot of our listeners mad. So here's my prediction. Altcoins, which I'm going to define as everything other than Bitcoin and ETH and stablecoins, before somebody yells at me about that, will have a negative return as a space in 2026, and that TradFi will capture way more of the value than many of the crypto native protocols.
Depends how you define it, right? So I think everyone agrees that alts are having a rough go. I think based on the index you used, they're down about 60% year over year, depending on your definitions of alts. We've always known that you can create tokens out of anything, and a lot of them have no worth. But I think you're right that there's going to be a return to fundamentals. I don't see, like, it's hard to group them into this huge monolithic group. You have to look at each project individually. What is its utility? And I think that discipline of looking at fundamentals is going to drive dispersion in the price and the value of these altcoins. So it's like easy to say alter this, alter that. I do think that you're going to see derivatives onshoring in 26. Remember, Gary Gensler, we talked about this. He forced all the derivatives offshore. Next year is going to be a battleground for derivatives in the United States. And one of my predictions correlated to this, Austin, is that US will gain market share. CME will lose market share onshore. Okay, like right now, I'd say, they're a very small part. I think they're just a tiny amount of the global volume, so we can go through them if we want. But I think they're going to face very, very tough competition from our friends at Coinbase. You're going to see the Asians marching in. I think Binance returns. I think OKX comes on strong. So it's going to be the battleground. Why is this related to alts? Because the alts with functional futures will win. Why? Because again, as we're seeing institutions enter the space, they need to be able to hedge. They need to be able to trade basis. That basis is going to be ETF versus future, DAT versus future. Futures power alts. Alts with futures win. Bifurcation of value between the haves and the have-nots in the alt space.
I think part of the other problem, though, like as I'm looking at why I believe this, is two things. One, back to thinking about fundamentals. A lot of the design of tokens and protocols was a counter reaction to the nonsense from the SEC over the past like 4-ish years under the Biden administration. But now we're starting to have a reckoning with the compromises that were made there as people can start operating. So like look at the drama around Aave right now as an example, which is if we come to a place where it's like actually the token doesn't really give you any meaningful rights and the revenue can just be taken away, then the appropriate price for most of these tokens is way lower, right? Like way, way lower than it currently is. And the problem that you will run into is while crypto natives have had some sort of, call it community / mythological / ethos belief around tokens, TradFi people don't share that. And so they're not going to be coming into this space and saying, hey, the way to do things is buy a giant stack of Aave and introduce governance. No, they're just going to build their own borrow lend protocol. And so I think we're going to hit the rubber meeting the road on what is a token, what rights does it have. And I think for a lot of these things to survive, they're going to have to transform into much more equity-like instruments that grant people actual legal rights, right? Because again, the days of like the, call it valueless governance token are probably coming to an end. Now that like, and there's been a string of these, right? Like Aave is not the only one. Look at like the Axelar takeout, right, by Circle. And you can see these things starting to emerge of the differential interests between the operating company and the token holders are really becoming an issue.
Okay, so I'm gonna hedge a little bit and say that I think everything but Bitcoin lumped into altcoins is a challenging heuristic. So Solana, I'm assuming, so you don't equate Solana with sort of a meme coin, I'm assuming, right? Or are we thinking about that?
I mean, I will tell you right now, the only thing I would confidently carve out there is like ETH and the major stable coins. I think even if you include Solana in the space, it's probably a negative for the space.
Okay. So I'll disagree with you on Solana because I think that Solana is going to be the architecture for a major U.S. equities exchange to start experimenting with on-chain equities. I think they'll use Solana because, ironically, meme coins proved the resiliency of that infrastructure.
Okay, but hold on. I'm not disagreeing that will happen. I'm asking, does the value then accrue to the token?
I think it does, and not because you're not. I think you're right about the fundamental value. I think there's two other forces I think that are countering it. Well, three. One is just mean reversion. People love mean reversion trades. I think that's one thing. But for mean reversion trades to work, you need capital flows. I think there's going to be a series of ETFs and access vehicles, and there'll be, for the first time ever, there'll be an army of brokers selling them and shilling them. And if you think that crypto culture is powerful to aggregate capital, wait until 100,000 Morgan Stanley brokers are out there on the golf courses pushing these mean reversion trades for these baskets of altcoins. The last thing is, and this is getting a little bit philosophical, but I've been spending a lot of time thinking about what Scott Galloway is going on about this growing nihilism amongst Gen X and Gen Z and Gen Alpha. And I'm seeing him. I do a lot of public speaking because this book that was written about me is really popular with college kids. So I've spoken to my nephew's fraternity, and I get 25, 30 college kids a month reach out to me because they still love this decade-old book. I sense it from my conversations with that generation. So I think that this and if your members don't know, Scott Galloway and Scaramucci and others are talking about this problem affecting not just young men, but mostly young men who, summarized by financial nihilism, they believe that there's that inflation beats interest. So this whole idea of saving and compounding, you cannot work your way out of a debasement, and therefore there's no hope. Even if you get a decent job, there's no hope. So you might as well just ape into some shot. You might as well just gamble away some shot. And he ties it to the sort of gamblification and financialization of all assets. And I think that's not going away in 2026. So I think you're going to see inflows into any beaten down asset class that's viewed as a potential 10x or 20x mean reversion trade. And I think there'll be easier access vehicles for altcoins. I think you'll see more nihilistic Gen Z heading into these trades. I think it's what's driving silver right now. I think the memification of 10 potential 10xers, I think that zeitgeist is not going away.
So, John, what's the next meme, man? What's the next memification?
I hope it's sober and thoughtful, triple tax-free muni bonds in New York State. I feel like that's a great.
I thought it was going to be Coinbase equities. No, all right.
So, look, I'm sorry. Just one quick thing on that. So I hope that the Everything app, I hope it starts with high quality assets and then filters down. I think people should be allowed to buy whatever they want, but I think if you lead with idiosyncratic, high volatility assets, you increase the probability of a micro or a macro blow up in the building stages of that market, and then things get complicated. So I'm hoping for on-chain gold, on-chain crude oil, on-chain large cap US equities, on-chain Bitcoin, and then you get the benefit of that all at scale in one place.
Yeah. So Austin's saying that securities, he sees more value accrual to securities or security-like properties, right?
That I agree with.
That's what you're saying. I don't agree with it.
Part of it is that, but part of it is also like, all right, so it's important to understand the mentality of some of the people here. I was having a late night discussion with a friend about nihilism recently, amusingly. And the important thing to understand is there's not a central meaning there when you're thinking about that. If you look at the behavior of like the financial nihilist sector, they just run around chasing the next hot thing, looking for wins. And sort of part of my thesis here with the altcoins is that's old and dead and gone, and I don't think it's coming back. Like, they're busy fucking around back again in like stocks or like prediction markets right now. Yeah. And there's going to be something new that we can't predict, but it's not going to be, oh, we go back to that thing only like a year or two later. If those come back around, it will be many years later. That's how retro things work. And so I think part of it is the hot ball of money left alts, and it's probably not coming back to alts because that's not how hot balls of money work. And so when you combine that with the fact that all the people who would normally come in is like, oh, that thing's incredibly beaten down, I'm a value investor, let me go look into that, go, oh, like, is there any value here? Like, if you're a distressed person and you look at a lot of these tokens, you look at that and go, nah, that might be zero.
That's interesting. Okay. So alts are so 2025. They're just not cool again.
Alts are not cool.
Yeah.
It's not forever though. This stuff is cyclical. Yeah. And again, like, I don't agree with value just accrues to the securities. And by the way, like, securities are no longer a death sentence, right? On the commodity side, it depends how valuable that commodity is and what is its utility, right? So I do think that you got to be a little bit more discerning. But I hear you, and I do think there's going to be a push into that the security-esque asset because we can now. We're not going to jail if we do it, right? All right.
Yeah, and that's part of the prediction is now that you can actually do securities, maybe you just want to do that sometimes.
All right, so I got another one. All right, so we had 21 was DeFi summer. I'm going to say 26 is M&A summer. M&A is going to be freaking everywhere. So this year, I think there's about 8.6 billion in M&A activity. John, you guys led the way with your acquisition of Deribit. Kraken did, Ninja Trader. I think this M&A is going to be so dynamic. You have a lot of new public company CEOs that want to go buy stuff. That's why they went public in the first place. You're going to have the DAT M&A, two different types of DAT M&A. DAT against DAT, right? You know, whether it's I'm buying a DAT of the same token or a different token, I'm going to dump it. Maybe that's one flavor, but I think a bigger flavor is DAT buying or merging or acquiring foundations and labs. That's the other M&A trend. So obvious to me. You got the trad into crypto M&A. If you're a trad player, many of them, they've ignored crypto for years because the regulators said, don't touch it or I'm going to get you. Now they're like, uh-oh, I got to catch up. So trad into crypto. And then you're going to have crypto into trad because people like Austin are saying you need to have those securities capabilities. You need to have that equity infrastructure. So going both directions. And then the last flavor is I see offshore coming onshore to buy things. Asian exchanges and players, European perhaps coming onshore, where you're going to hear some CFIUS debates. But like, I think it's going to be M&A, M&A, and M&A in 26. What do you think?
So I think you're right about the DATs. I think the DATs, I'll add, I think the DATs that are in a position where they have any sort of lifeline, where they have a year or more of run rate, and they have any capital available, they have to go by cash flow. Their business models are non-sustainable, right? They're burning for every, say, 100 million of assets, they're burning somewhere between $5 and $10 million a year to keep it up and running. Staking doesn't cover that. Staking, unless you can't go into the really risky stuff if you're a public DAT. So they're just non-economic. So I think you're right. They'll consolidate. I think the ones that can go out and get debt financing or have some capital left over from their de-SPACing or wherever it is they listed, they have to go buy EBITDA. Like they have to actually go by cash flow. So you may see DATs buying like oddly normal analog businesses just to get cash flow to show, hey, I can be around over the next 5 years and become this thing, this access vehicle that you want me to become. Chris, real quick question back to you. All the other M&A stuff, is most of that distressed?
Oh, no, not necessarily at all.
No?
I think that there are people that are looking for the best companies, the best capabilities. I have buddies in traditional markets. They're like, come back to me when your company's making $100 million in revenue. I think the problem right now, frankly, is that there just aren't enough crypto companies that are capable of meeting the standards that need to be met. Like, that's the unfortunate truth. But the ones that are, they're either racing to go public or someone's going to try to scoop them up as soon as possible.
Well, I think you hit on something important about M&A that a lot of TradFi people are not understanding really well. So if you're one of those and you're listening to this, pay close attention. There are really only like 3 profiles right now that are potentially M&A-able, and one of them you're just not going to get, which is crypto companies that have done quite well are going public. If you look at the IPO valuations of like a Coinbase, a Circle, right? Like the people, even Bullish as an example, the people who have been able to IPO have by and large done very well, and they don't need to do an M&A transaction. They're going to go public, and then you're going to have to try to take them over in traditional capital markets. And so if something's got, call it 200 million of revenue and it's a crypto company, it should not sell to you. It should IPO. And so I think they face this problem of like, actually the public capital markets are probably a better buyer. 2 is companies that are specific types of strategic acquisitions. Like we have seen stablecoin startups like the Bridge and like, sort of like BVNKs of the world being scooped up or potentially scooped up. That makes sense to me because that's a strategic bolt-on. But you're going to need to know what those are, which means you need to know what you're doing in blockchain space. And a lot of TradFi companies, quite frankly, are 10 years behind, right? Like if you're any of the like major financial or bank companies and you don't have a totally cracked team of people in this space already, and the 1 or 2 of you who do know who you are are very behind, right? And I don't know if you can evaluate this well. 3 is there's a handful of like these mid-tier companies that are probably acquirable, but that's purely because it's a business model that may not itself want to IPO. Like a good example of those, Chris, you and I are both familiar with them, is like Inca Digital, right? Which is an intelligence company. Like they literally do anti-financial crime and financial intelligence. I don't know how much public reporting they want to do. So that makes sense for a private acquisition, but like that's not most protocols, which either don't have revenue or have complicated user bases and tokens. That's not the IPO crowd. So like my one pump the brakes on the M&A thing is there may be like at best low tens of companies that are acquirable, like functionally.
I also think, Austin, to your point about big TradFi making these acquisitions, and this is entirely anecdotal, and I will not name names, but I got into the partnership level of one of these companies recently, and I think we're still underestimating the degree of reticence amongst 30% or more of some of these senior partners. By the way, these are not like 80-year-old guys, curmudgeonly guys. These are like 50-year-old guys who have put it on public record over the last 7 to 10 years that they think crypto is bullshit. And it's incredibly embarrassing. So I was asked recently, like, what do you think about where's crypto skepticism going? I don't think there's crypto skepticism anymore. I think there's crypto resentment. So you're this guy, you're this incredibly powerful partner at XYZ. You are not just quietly shitting on crypto. You have been very, very, very public about it. To turn around at this stage of your career and greenlight a major acquisition, empower that team. By the way, Chris, the team you mentioned, and I think it was Austin, they're there. They're at every day. They're just impotent. They're just stuck in a corner somewhere with no real power. To elevate that team to take over a P&L, to greenlight an acquisition, it's to admit that you were not just wrong, you were catastrophically wrong. And if I'm that guy and I'm a senior partner in one of these firms, 53 to 57 years old, you know what? I'm going to retire in 3 to 5 years. I'm going to just say this is bullshit for the next 5 years until I'm out, and let that next generation deal with it, because it's embarrassing to admit it. I think we dramatically underestimate the degree of reticence that still exists. And that's why I don't think we'll see a major bank acquisition.
And by the way, the number of boards who are going to be willing to accurately like police that behavior and fire that person and replace them with somebody who will do the right thing is very low. Maybe not zero. There probably will be. Actually, here's a prediction that I didn't intend to make. There will probably be 1 or 2 big blowouts where management or a board gets forced out by activist investors over things like this over the next year. Because if you're somebody who's been at the forefront on the technological front, you're still out there shitting all over this as like Citadel and like NASDAQ and NYSE and the CME are all going on chain. Like if I'm on the board, I'm asking a lot of questions. And if I start investing and taking board seats.
The other thing is like, when I was in Wall Street, Austin, you remember, BlackRock says jump, you say how high.
Yeah.
If they're going on chain, they're like, hey, you're settling with me on chain. I'm settling with you on chain. You pay me hundreds of billions of dollars every year to my bank. I do think what is consensus,
That's fair. Yeah.
What is consensus at this level, John, is going back to 2017 or whatever, blockchain, not Bitcoin. If you are saying I'm investing in infra, no problem. It's infra. Right. If you're saying I'm buying tokens, maybe we got to pause a little bit, but like that blockchain, not Bitcoin concept is alive and well in these boards and at that level, I believe.
Well, we saw against my point, we saw the rumor, but it's been a confirmed rumor that MasterCard's buying Zero Hash. And I think there'll be, I think that's fair. It's fair. I think I'm distinguishing some of these commercial companies from the investment banks, but and the DATS problem is going to be that a lot of them have very inexperienced boards, and they're going to be panicked, and their lawyers are telling them you're going to get sued, and so they're not going to want to sell at below stock price, which they'll have to do to get a deal done. And I think they're just going to lock up for the first 6 months of the year until activists, as Austin said, come in and force M&A activity.
I want to go back to something you said around staking doesn't pay the bills. It does if you're Tom Lee. He came out today. He said, I'm making $1 million a day on staking, right? So what does that mean? It means scale, right? And so if you are able to achieve that scale, then, it's the haves and have-nots, which is something that we see as markets mature. As markets mature, things scale. That's why, to me, it's a no-brainer that consolidation is going to happen in 26, particularly amongst the DATs.
All right. So before we run out of time here, since we should do at least one prediction, I'll give a prediction that I think, again, will enrage everybody. I think the Democrats will win the House in 2026, and I think they will immediately regret it because it will probably tank them for the presidency in 2028. Back to the financial nihilism component. The thermostatic effect in politics is getting stronger over time. That is to say, voters are pissed, and there's major intergenerational warfare, and you do not want to be the main character right now. The easiest way to win is to be an outsider. And so I think the Democrats taking the House, getting on the main stage, pushing a bunch of their priorities are only going to piss people off and actually make people hate them too. The reality is voters are not happy with either of the major political parties. And the best thing you can do to be popular right now is stay off the stage.
I agree that there's no short-term political solution that can solve the problems that are enraging most Americans, particularly around inflation, particularly around affordability. It does appear that the short-term political actions will exacerbate those issues. And whereas before, I think you could spend your way into a good stock market and mollify people, I think those days are gone. And so it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. So I agree that whoever's in power is gonna have the target on their back. And I don't think there's any way, as Lynn Alden always says, there's no way to stop the train. I think both economically, but also culturally. Not to sound too pessimistic, but I do think we will be I think the U.S. will be, as a society, will be further fractured at the end of 2026 than it is now. I'm hopeful eventually there's a turnaround, but I tend to agree, and that kind of plays into my belief that altcoins and other types of idiosyncratic assets will go up as people just make that what the hell trade. But I tend to agree things are looking worse, not better, on that front.
That sounds to me like it's going to be a really good season for prediction markets.
Yes.
Oh, I think prediction markets are going to septuple. And I think on-chain lending and prediction markets will both 5x to 10x.
Amen.
People will want to take leverage, to take risk, and people are going to want to bet on absolutely everything. It's not. I don't think it's gambling into that, but they're going to want to make a prediction on almost everything.
Lending has to come back. What about NFTs? Are they coming back next year?
So I'm going to say something really outside the box on NFTs. I actually think NFTs are going to turn out to be incredibly important, but not in the way they were originally designed. Yeah, I think where they will be important is tracking ownership of things that are currently on either broken, crappy ledgers or things that are not currently ledgered, right? Like if we could just create an NFT for all the cars in America and track those, or like, let's get into luxury good markets and things like that. There's a lot of value to be unlocked there with tokens that are unique and only like transferable in the right circumstances. I just think the initial wave of, hey, we're going to produce programmatic digital art. It's like, guys, those are JPEGs. That's very easy to make.
That was silly.
Yeah.
I think entertainers, sports teams, venues will start to figure out how to monetize the economic and data relationship with their fans via NFTs better. I think they experimented a bit before. I know like a buddy of mine, Imran Ahmed, who runs this company called The Business of Fashion. It's an extremely influential fashion company. They're going to figure it out. There's ways of it's provenance, which is important. It's data and communication with your fan base, which is important. And then it's that ephemeral, like, I own this thing that Taylor Swift endorses thing, which my daughters love. So no one's kind of got it yet, but it's just so obviously there that it's a great way to engage with your fan base and extract information and provide value back in community. So I think whether it's a sports team or entertainer, I think someone will crack the NFT code and figure out how to make it really, I wouldn't say useful, but really desirable.
There's a whole different layer too to this, right? Which is like, God, who is it? I think it's the state of California is putting like driver's license information on Avalanche as an NFT, right? Like again, these are just in some ways property records, guys, right? Like let's stop overcomplicating it.
I agree.
Yeah, I think there's some value in social graphing as well, right? So as certain people have certain types of assets in their wallets, it's going to be very valuable data for introducing other types of things that are similar to people of that data set, right? Like punk holders, penguin holders. That's what we're looking at today. In the future, it's like, oh wow, this wallet has X, Y, and Z. I think they would like for me to sell them or airdrop this. But I guess privacy.
I was in conversations with an NFL team, a sports team a long time ago, and this idea they put in my head of, okay, you get your ticket stub, which is your NFT, fine, whatever. Maybe it's collectible, but you can program in effectively a lottery mechanism. And so let's use soccer, for example. If you do certain things, that if you use that NFT in certain ways, it stays active and it goes off, and Messi tweets out your name or calls your phone. Who the hell knows? But some engagement component can be written into the contract, and that's extraordinary. That takes entertainment, customer, fan dynamic from static to dynamic over time. And look, I don't give a shit about that stuff, but there's hundreds of millions of people who really do, and they will figure out a way to engage you in your off time with that brand.
It also does the most valuable thing in crypto, which is compressing the intermediary stack, right? Like we're going to now live in a world where creator, team, company has a direct relationship to the customer on the other side of things without like 3 layers of intermediation.
It's Patton Oswalt, my favorite comedian. It's Patton Oswalt. I buy his tickets through his website now because he realized he was big enough to mark. I follow his Twitter account. I'm going to be in Brooklyn. He was in Brooklyn a couple of months ago, and I bought the ticket directly from Patton Oswalt. It was demonstrably cheaper. I'm sure he's making a shitload more money, and everybody wins.
Feels like a business Coinbase could get into, John.
I think, well, we're doing everything. We're updating the whole system. So let's go.
Yeah. All right. Well, I was going to say, let me throw this to you two if you have one more prediction you want to throw out, since we're slightly over time, and then we will end up calling it.
So hacking aside, I don't think there's going to be another big blow up in 2026. I don't think there'll be a big crypto bankruptcy, insolvency. I have come to the point where I'm so annoyed. Every time there's a volatility move in price, Twitter goes nuts with like these nebulous, some Asian hedge fund blew up, or a big bank couldn't make their silver margin calls. It's a great way to know who's a non-serious person. Like, look, in the immediate aftermath of a blow up, it's a possibility. But like a week later, if they're still saying there's some big unknown, that's not how these things work. The rumor mill starts immediately. Insolvencies happen right away. I think the probability of a major insolvency, non-hacking related insolvency, has gone way down. I think October 10th scared the shit out of people. I think they de-risked. I think there wasn't a blow up because they weren't over-levered. They might have been a little too much levered and they took down a risk, and that's what you're seeing now with reduction in liquidity. But I think the major players have learned their lesson, and I don't think we're going to have an FTX style blow up in 2026.
That's one of the reasons they're coming on shore, John. Right? As they come on shore, they're going to avoid all the ADL shenanigans, and that's why I think that's going to be rocket fuel this year with derivatives. Why would I go unregulated if I can go regulated now that I'm allowed to do it? That's where liquidity is going to move. My last one, Austin, Bitcoin and Ethereum hit all-time highs in 26.
I could totally see that. I could totally see that. But I want to pile on with the point to John here. If there is a major failure of something in crypto in 2026, one, it's going to be a stable coin. And two, which people are really not expecting, it will be because a bank failed where the stable coin held their money. That will be TradFi blowing up something in crypto, not the other way around. People think the systemic risk goes from stablecoin to TradFi. It goes from a bank to a stablecoin.
Couldn't agree more. There's been 600 bank failures in the last 5 years, and there's a very high chance of there being more. And if there's ubiquitous stablecoin creation, I think it's almost impossible there won't be a bank failure cause stablecoin failure.
Yes. If anybody from House or Senate financial services are listening to this, remember, you have to protect stablecoins from the banks.
And crypto will get blamed.
Yes.
This was fun, guys. Invite me
thanks
back.
for so much, huh?
Yeah, thank you.
You can come back.
And if I'm wrong and aliens are confirmed, we can invite an alien.
I was going to say you could just blame the aliens for controlling you to make the prediction to disguise the fact that they were real.
Right. This was great, guys. I appreciate you inviting me on.
Professor's definitely not from Earth. All right, guys. Good to see you.
I see how it is. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Bits and Bips. Happy New Year. We'll be back in 1 week to discuss more about how the worlds of crypto and